My name is Brian Sullivan. I'm the chair of the Harwich Board of Appeals. Welcome to the meeting of the Harwich Board of Appeals on this date, June 25th. The purpose of this meeting is to hear and decide applications before the Board of Appeals which have been brought pursuant to the bylaw of the town of Harwich and the Massachusetts Zoning Enabling Act. As required by law, the town may audio or video record this meeting, which we are. Any person intending to either audio or video record this open session is required to inform the chair. During this meeting, the chair will recognize promptly a member of the board, the secretary, and attorneys presenting the case to inform the chair if a protocol is not being followed. While in open session, those wishing to present comments or ask questions regarding the case are requested to fill out the information form on the podium, which is right over there when you come to speak. I'd like to have the board members introduce themselves.
John August.
Kenneth Dixon.
Alexander Donahue.
Brian Sullivan.
Chris Murphy.
Okay. And I'd like to have the, and again, just one more time, if you're here for 121 Belmont Road, that case is going to be withdrawn without prejudice. It's been requested, so no need to stick around. And I'd like to have the clerk call the first case.
This case is case number 2025-15. Jeffrey Lang, manager of 11 River Bend LLC, through the attorney Andrew Singer, the owner of the property located at 11 River Bend, assessors map 1, parcel G1-9. The case has been continued to May 28th from May 28th, 25.
Okay. First of all, I want to point out regarding this particular case, present here today that were at the original, board members that heard the original case was Al Donahue, myself, John August, and Ken Dixon. Chris Murphy was not here that day, but has completed the requirements under the Mullen rule, and I have an affidavit and so forth that he's taken care of all that. That would include reading the minutes as well as watching the hearing on tape. Okay. I don't expect, do you need a copy of this, attorney?
No.
Okay. So,
Glad to have all five of you.
all right. Okay, well, thank you, and I'd like to have you introduce yourselves and anyone that's helping you to present the case.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, my name is Andrew Singer, attorney in Dennisport, here on behalf of the applicant. With me in the first row are Antonio Butwell, who's the project designer, and Dan Croto, project engineer. Jeff Lang, property owner, is also in the room. He's in the back row, I believe, where he was. We were here before you, and a question had come up through opposing counsel as to whether you should be looking at this project as a special permit or a variance. The chair had requested that the board seek town council opinion and requested that each attorney prepare a memorandum of brief to town council. Both of us, the attorneys, we did that back in early May. And town council, with a lot of cases, you don't usually get that many cases discussed at a Board of Appeals level, but we had a lot of cases in there, and copies were submitted to you, so you may have read everything. Town council, as I said, issued a letter on June 19th determining that an appropriate review by this board is as a special permit because of the Harwich zoning bylaws specificity in defining a garage, in this case to a single-family dwelling, as a residential accessory structure. And section 325-54 of the zoning bylaws specifically provides the special permit criteria review for residential structures. And so town council determined that because of the zoning bylaw, This is, and so I'll read it for the letter from her letter. She said, "Since the Harwich bylaw references garages as an example of a residential accessory structure, in my opinion, it is reasonable to allow the garage the protection of 40A Section 6. And that doesn't mean you have to approve it, but what it means is that I believe we are here appropriately before you as a special permit review for structures that are pre-existing non-conforming. They qualify under 40A Section 7 as pre-existing non-conforming structures. And we had reviewed most of this with you at the first meeting, but I wanted to just bring us up to date to where we are today. And back on June 2nd, we submitted a supplemental filing, and I don't know if you have color copies. We brought extra color copies if any of you would like these to hand out. Do you
Don't-
okay.
I saw some copies of it, but I
We have
forget
these.
whether or not it's in living
Yeah, sorry,
color.
were these, oh, you
Yes,
got
I
it.
do have them. Yeah,
Okay.
living color. Thank you.
Attorney Hill is online, but I obviously cannot give him a copy now, although he was copied on these back at the beginning of June when we submitted them to the board. What the sheets that I just gave you demonstrate are, and this came up at your first meeting, if you look on all 4 pages, the top image is the existing house, raised in its existing location, right on the river, or as one of the owners described it before the meeting, in the river. The images on the bottom are the request that's before you for the special permit review. So it's an elevated house, but it's the one that is shifted back to become away from, as much as possible, the river. This, if you have this sheet with you as well in the file, this is the, Dan Croto did this, which demonstrates the, sorry, the red are the existing structures, and the green is the proposed. And you can see how it is being shifted as far back from the water as possible. And let me,
Do you have those colored pictures?
Mr. Murphy, in case you don't have a color version, I'll give you that.
Okay, thank you.
I got this one, yeah.
Yeah, that's the,
The
if
other
that's-
pictures,
I think that's the one that you're looking at. So what this demonstrates and what these images show you is that on this, what we're proposing, and again, it's the lower image in the handout I just gave you of the color copies. That house will eliminate all floodplain encroachments. So that house, the proposal for the review before you tonight is not only going to elevate the house above the floodplain, but it's also going to be pulling it back as far as you can out of the floodplain on this very constricted lot. So there are going to be significant environmental improvements. And I noted in my letter, and I think one of the board members raised a question when they were out there, they noticed that the basement door of the house was open. And the owner confirmed to me that that door is always open because the basement of this house is tidal. And if the tide is going out and the door is closed, it's going to pull the house off its foundation. So that door is left open to let the river flood the basement, because that's how close this house is. It's in the river. It really is. And so that's, to answer your question, Mr. Sullivan, that's exactly why that door was open, and still is.
I'm glad I didn't close it when I was there.
We are very glad that you didn't close it as well. Thank you. So the proposal before you not only solves huge environmental problems here, but it will decrease building coverage. The building coverage will be conforming on the lot, but it's going to be smaller than it is today. Site coverage on the lot is going to be conforming, but be smaller than it is today. The encroachment in the 0 to 50-foot setback from the river and the wetland is going to be smaller than it is today. The height of the house is pre-existing non-conforming. The house today, as we discussed before, is pre-existing non-conforming not only to height, it's over 30 feet, but also to the number of stories. The proposed house is going up a little bit, so it's going to be pre-existing non-conforming, it's going to be slightly higher, which is something you can review under the Gale and Dedrick cases, subject to is it substantially more detrimental. And as part of our argument as to why we believe it is not substantially more detrimental is this image right here. If you just elevated the house in its current location in the floodplain and closer to the river, which you can do, again with special permit, but it can be done, the house would be taller. So it would actually have to go up higher, and so, and this was something that was suggested by one of the neighbors or the attorney, I don't remember, at the last meeting. So the house that's being proposed is actually less high than it would otherwise be if you just jacked up the house that's there to get it above the floodplain. And all of this goes into your special permit review under 48 Section 6 and also 325-54 of the Harwich bylaw. So we submit that the proposal that's before you on all of the plans and all of the photos and all of the materials you have not only complies with all of the 325-54 technical requirements, but that not only is it not substantially more detrimental, which is the legal standard you look at, but to the contrary, it's going to be a substantial improvement, both environmentally, for height, for visibility, certainly for the flooding. And with that, I know you've had a long time to look at everything because, you know, town council's letter came in. We're not able to come talk to you at the May meeting. So you have all of those materials from us. We are all here, happy to answer questions. We do believe that this is a special permit that is well warranted to solve a lot of problems and will actually be an improvement to the neighborhood, not a detriment. Thank you very much.
Questions, Sean?
Just one quick one on the revised drawing from Moran dated 4/28. The building height calculations, both the existing house and proposed house design flood elevation shows 14 feet, but the existing house raised to flood compliance shows 16 feet. What's the difference?
I think that came up before you, Dan, do you? Let's look at.
Beginning of the note in the upper right-hand corner.
Oh, is he looking at this one?
And we got the education about the flood zone things. I'm just wondering why
I'm wondering which plan.
three
it is.
calculations and two use one number and one uses a different.
Dan Croto from Moran Engineering. Just making sure we're on the same plan. 4/28/25, is that what you were looking at?
Got the color plan with the red and the
That's the one you
green?
presented with your letter.
This
Yeah.
plan, yeah. I think he's talking about.
And that's area, it's habitable space. Some reason this one doesn't have. But 14 or 12, the floodplain is 13, we'll put it there. Floodplain's 13 to, the design flood elevation is 16. So you're
3
in
feet
that
above.
velocity zone. So the bottom of your lowest member of the horizontal member would have to be elevated to 16. Maybe that's what's on the plan. I don't specifically see on this one what,
Then why would that be different from the proposed house?
proposed house is moved
Not on-
beyond that for two reasons. The proposed house is moved out of this velocity zone, which is a stricter requirement under the current building code. And then as of July 1st, everything goes up another foot. So 16, if we were to go to the plan of jacking up the existing house, there's major issues, and the owner's only choice is to take the existing house or a rebuilding of that house and go up, which the town floodplain regs require. After Hurricane Sandy, FEMA was really on all the towns to make it quick and easy to lift existing houses to meet floodplain requirements due to what happened down in New Jersey. So, but as of July 1st, the building code changes, everything changes another foot. I lost track of where I was at. That means if we were to pull a building permit for that existing house now, or as of July 1st, which is basically now, then everything would go up another foot. That would put you to that elevation.
But the difference is
16.
basically because the house is moving out of the floodplain.
I was moving out of the V zone.
And we're still under,
Home is moving out.
yeah,
The house doesn't have to be as high in the proposed location versus the existing
under the
location.
current building code, which we're filed under, right, it's a foot lower, and you don't even need to be on pile foundations. It gets you out of what's called it gets you out of a 3-foot wave zone. So anything in that velocity zone is expected under the design storm to have a 3-foot wave. Once you're in a 3-foot wave, you need to be on piles and all that. Once you're beyond that, currently, you could have an actual concrete foundation with just small holes in it, which is generally what people build. the owners with this house are designing it to velocity zone foundation, but not to the height of the velocity, not, but a little bit lower because of the impact on bringing all these structures up to velocity zone elevation.
And that's why the as you look on that color plan, that's why the angling of it and pulling it back, that's what allows
Right.
what Dan just said to happen.
Having said that, the building itself, from foundation to, if you took the existing building and moved it out, so it didn't have to go up as high, it would still be a higher structure. The building, so from, the wood to the bottom of wood, which would be, right now it's top of foundation, to the top of the roof ridge of the existing house is a higher is higher than the existing. I think, so right now, the existing house from foundation to the peak of the roof is 28.6. The proposed house is 25.9. So even house for house, overall building height is a smaller structure.
Thank you.
No question.
Jim?
I have no questions. Yeah, my question was answered.
Okay, well, I have a few. First of all, just want to read one comment from, which I should have done earlier. The Harwich Conservation Department, this is from the original meeting in April. The Harwich Conservation Department submitted comments that the project will be before the Conservation Commission on April 16th, that they would be recommending they approve the project. That was from the Conservation Department. Can you review the results of that meeting with the Conservation Commission?
It was actually delayed until, I think, next week, so that
We're waiting for this, where there
Yeah.
was a town council. But what we didn't want is approval through, things were going well, we had some questions to answer with them. We had gone before, coming before this board. But what we didn't want is approval of a project that couldn't move forward because town councils came back and said you need to move the house a little bit. So we're putting this we're hoping for this approval first and then going back to conservation. But we can't get it any further away from the wetland, so I can't see conservation requiring us to, we can't really move it. The only way to move it is towards the wetland, so I don't see an issue with their approval.
I mean, where, again, in reading everything, going over all the details, and of course, I need to hear from the Attorney Hall and his comments, but we see to me that you've, seen what the town council has said, that you've satisfied, the requirements of a special permit. I also, of course, subject to what the Conservation Department would say, I can see the fact that moving this house away from the velocity zone, up in that corner, away from really more critical conservation, wetlands, not wetlands, but the water flow area, that there'd be reason to consider, a variance because of, conditions of land and so forth. Okay. And then the concerns regarding that, whether it's a, garage or residential structure, our code does allow the fact that there's a garage with an attachment that's attached to an existing house, even with a breezeway, that becomes, legitimate as well regarding, on a special permit. So there are many courses I see here for reasons for approval. What is the time frame of the project based upon a decision?
Well, pending an approval from your board and a pending approval from the Conservation Commission, the Board of Health, I believe, also has to approve.
We still have to go through conservation and Board of Health, which is a month and a month. But I don't think the owners are using it I don't think the owners thought this process would take as long, so I think for them, it's as soon as possible. But we still have to get through we gotta get through this, I'll get your, approval, and then still through Conservation and Board of Health, so we're talking fall,
Okay.
in a perfect world.
And what is the anticipation for maintaining construction vehicles on the lot?
They're going to be not on the roadway,
Okay,
which is as per your standard condition in tight neighborhoods.
so you'd be maintained on the lot,
They
okay?
would be maintained on the lot, or off-site, but not on the road.
So construction and so forth will probably be starting and be well on its way prior to our usual time frame requirements of the June 30th to Labor Day, as far as I'm not having construction.
That is to be hoped for by the applicant, yes.
All right, I don't have any other questions at the moment. I now would like to open this up to the public, but before going into a session and public comment period, I just wanted, besides Attorney Hill, who will be, I'm sure, speaking momentarily, are there many others here tonight that want to speak regarding this case? Just one, all right, just want to check. Asking because I'm trying to look at the time frame of tonight's meeting and whether I had to restrict times. But, all right, thank you. And I'd like to open up now to public comment period, and Attorney Hill, I think, can you unmute the attorneys? Thank you.
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you very much. My name is Dan Hill. I represent several of the neighbors and abutters to this project. And we have been representing the neighbors for some time now before the Conservation Commission and the Zoning Board. I did send a short letter to the board this afternoon. I realize you probably haven't had a chance to read it, but I did want to just put on the record our rebuttal to town council's opinion that came in last week. So I did send that in earlier today.
Okay.
I want to first
Attorney,
address the height
excuse me
issue.
1 second. Board members, have you all read this?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Al?
Yes.
Okay, the board has all read this, your letter this afternoon.
Great. So on the issue of the height, I just want to, again, sort of point out that the height wouldn't be an issue if the construction of the new house remained in the existing footprint of the house. The problem is that the height is increasing. I don't think there's any dispute of that. The existing height is non-conforming. It doesn't comply with the 30-foot requirement. And the height of the proposed house is going to be even taller. If the new house was being rebuilt in the same footprint as the existing house, then arguably this board could approve the height increase even without a variance, subject to the substantially not detrimental finding. That is black letter law. That was a case out of Brookline that was decided a few years ago. But because this house is not being constructed in the same footprint, then any increase of nonconformity, in this case the height, can't be allowed by special permit. It would require a variance. And that's the Diedrich case out of Chatham. And that case specifically says that if you have, you can't have a new nonconformity that is beyond the location of the nonconforming house. So we stand by that position. I understand the argument being made that this house could be put on stilts today and the height could be increased. But that's not the same as allowing basically unfettered height increases with special permits. That provision of the zoning bylaw that allows you to put a house on stilts to get it out of, to raise it above the flood zone doesn't give license to the board to approve any height increases that are more non-conforming. So there's just, that argument doesn't fly in our book. And beyond that, they're not proposing to do stilts. They haven't put this house on stilts, and they're not proposing to do that. And it kind of begs the question too, why isn't the applicant doing that? we've heard a lot of comments tonight in prior meetings about the need to pull the house out of the velocity zone. But the question my clients have is why? Why can't you just raise the house, put it on stilts or piers to allow for the flood action under the house? There's lots of examples of that on the Cape and in other coastal communities. So going to the issue of the jurisdiction of the board to even issue a special permit for a non-conforming structure, that was really the question that was presented to town council. And the initial question on this really came down to whether this detached garage was a residential structure or not. So that was really the big debate. And, I know Mr. Singer made a strong argument to you that the zoning bylaw has a definition of residential accessory buildings. And his argument was that, that since the bylaw has this definition of an accessory building, then that must mean that the zoning board has the authority to issue a special permit for a non-conforming garage. The problem with that is that first of all, there's two sources of law, right? There's the zoning act itself, and the zoning act allows for special permits for pre-existing non-conforming single and two-family residential buildings, residential structures. That's what the zoning act says, and that's been interpreted by the courts, but there isn't actually any appellate level case law on this question that's presented here. Is a garage that's detached, there's no living quarters in the garage, it's not an ADU, it's a car garage. Does that count? Can we basically bootstrap the garage's nonconformity, and we all admit that the garage is nonconforming, it doesn't comply with the front yard setback. Can we bootstrap that nonconformity to allow what's basically an enlarged single-family house within the front yard setback where it doesn't exist today? That's the problem here, is this house currently complies with the setback. And now what's being proposed is a house that doesn't comply with the setback. And the applicant's argument is that we can do it because the garage doesn't comply. So unfortunately, town council has interpreted the bylaw in a way that we feel is incorrect. She has basically said that towns like Harwich, any town, can expand grandfathering protection beyond what the statute allows. And we agree with that. There's no question that towns can provide greater grandfathering protection. But when towns do that, they have to do it explicitly. And that's the language of this case that Amy Questle cited, called Comstock versus the Gloucester Zoning Board. And in that case, the Gloucester zoning bylaw or zoning ordinance explicitly said, yeah, we're going to expand grandfathering protection to accessory structures, not just residential structures, but structures that are accessory there too. That's the language that was in the ordinance. And then the court said, yes, this is okay, that now we can say we can expand the grandfathering protection to not just the house, but the house and the accessory structures. So Amy was relying on that case to say, yeah, here we've got accessory structures, you've got a definition of a residential accessory structure, therefore the board can issue a special permit. But it's not the same, because Harwich doesn't expand grandfathering protection the way Gloucester did. There's nothing in the Harwich zoning bylaw. It's a separate section, right? It's section 54. There's nothing in section 54 that even talks about accessory structures. It doesn't say that we in Harwich are going to broaden grandfathering protection to not just the house, but the house and all the outbuildings. It doesn't do it, unlike Gloucester. So where Harwich has not explicitly made grandfathering protection more broad than state law, then state law controls. And under state law, this garage is not a residential structure. So I respectfully disagree with Amy's interpretation. Just because Harwich define something as a residential accessory building, just because they created a definition of what that is, does not then mean that the grandfathering section, section 54, encompasses those things in addition to houses for special permit purposes. They're two different sections, and one does not equate the other. So we respectfully disagree with Amy's conclusion. We think it's wrong. This board is not bound by it, of course. You asked for an opinion. You can either accept that opinion, or you can choose not to accept it if you agree with my rationale. It's your call. It's your judgment. So that's our case. We feel that in sum, the garage's nonconformity does not give license to the applicant to build a new single-family structure within that 25-foot setback area, nor build a new house that's taller than permitted under the zoning bylaw, especially where the existing house conforms with that 25-foot setback area. And building a new house within that setback area would constitute an impermissible new nonconformity. That requires a variance under state law, not just a special permit. So that's all I have to say, members of the board. Thank you for the time. And I might have some additional comments depending on where this goes, but I think you ought to decide this jurisdictional issue first. If you agree or don't agree, then you can move on to the next step. If you agree with me, I think the case is over. The applicant can change its plans or come back with a variance application. If you don't agree with me, then obviously you go to the next step, which is to make those findings that are under your bylaw.
Well, thank you. Gentlemen, are there any questions for Attorney Hill?
No.
I have no questions. Okay. I'd like to just go back and I don't recall all the details regarding our discussion at the last meeting regarding height and the nonconformity there. As I recall, after we got done reviewing it, it was determined the fact that it was an approved nonconformity based upon when the section of the building on that height was added. So I'd like to just go back over that. And Rachel, do you recall as far as the decision on that last month, in April?
I don't think the board came to a conclusion about the height nonconformity.
I'd be happy to
Sure.
weigh in on that as well. There was discussion at the meeting about what the height of the existing structure is and the number of stories.
Right.
And there had been, I think there was a number that was wrong on one table and it was corrected like the afternoon of the meeting, and we discussed that at the meeting. And in the data and we can go back over it if you'd like, and Dan was alluding to it before, but the data as he demonstrated under his engineering calculations was that the existing house is over 30 feet and it's over 2 stories. It's
Right.
2.5. And so and we submitted Google Earth images going back 20 years, I think, like 05 and 010 or something like that, demonstrating that the house had been there for, at a minimum, there, and probably a lot longer than that. So I believe that, the height of the house is what the height of the house is, from the ground up. The new house is proposed to be on piles. If you look in the lower images
I
of...
thought so.
Yeah, if you look in the lower images of what you said here, the new house is completely on piles, and as Dan said, he designed it to the velocity standards, even though it's being moved out of the velocity zone to provide additional protection. And I do believe, based on the fact that you have pre-existing non-conforming height, number of stories in height, and this will be a 2-story house, it's not gonna be 2.5, so actually we're eliminating part of the non-conformity. It'll be at higher than 30 feet still, but it's gonna be a 2-story house. If you look at, and I respectfully disagree with Attorney Hill, if you look at the Gale and the Dedrick cases as followed up with the Bellata case in 2019 by the SJC, it clearly, and you've looked at these cases many times in hearings over the years, it clearly says that if you can extend a pre-existing nonconformity, you cannot create new. I do agree with Attorney Hill on that. You can't create a new nonconformity. However, this isn't creating a new nonconformity. We have a lot that's a single-family residential lot with single-family residential structures as determined by your attorney not just my letter, but your attorney agrees. And it is in the relocation, which is solving and eliminating some nonconformities, it is extending one. But it's not in any way creating a new nonconformity on the lot. And the lot is what is protected. Under the zoning bylaw, section 325.2 is the definitions, and that section says that these definitions are what we interpret the zoning bylaw under, right? All the sections. And 325.54 is part of that. So I believe that this all falls together as outlined by town council, that it is a special permit, and that the height, while it is going up in height, although down in stories, is not substantially more detrimental.
Thank you. Just want to, going back over that review. Okay. Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard on this case? Yes, ma'am, you indicated. If you could step up to the podium, I would appreciate it. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for
And your
Having me.
name, please.
Noreen Cahalan, West Harwich. I guess, just want to say, if you do approve the project, I hope that you would have no building between Memorial Day and Labor Day, and you talked about not having equipment on the streets.
Correct. Usually, we restrict the time frame to June 30th through Labor Day, as far as the general restriction on any exterior construction or landscaping being done during that time frame. They can do construction inside the house after all the walls are up and so forth.
Okay. I noticed when Mr. Moran was speaking, he said that, when you move it back from the velocity zone, that it actually doesn't have to be on stilts, it could be on a foundation. So, if there's an issue on height, then I guess it's just on a regular foundation, because the town law is supposed to not be more than 30 feet, correct?
Unless there's an existing nonconformity, which
We
the
kind of were
applicant has
talking about,
presented in
but,
this case, right?
yeah, but it's not in the footprint, so,
I understand.
yep. I guess those were just my thoughts, those couple of things. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
If I could just respond that the, whichever type of foundation it's on, the elevation of the structure itself stays the same. So whether it's piles, for the location of it, if they didn't do the extra step of putting on piles, it's the same height. Your first floor has to be that same height above the floodplain. No matter what's under it. So the building height won't change if we were to go back to a concrete foundation.
Is there anyone else in the public that'd like to speak regarding this case? Oh, that, okay. Hearing none, I'd like to ask for any additional questions to the applicant from the board? No. Okay. All right. And so courtesy, Attorney Hill, do you have any other comments you'd like to make?
Only that if you do proceed with issuing a permit, we did have a couple suggestions for conditions, and I'm not sure if you're gonna write this up tonight, or maybe you write it up later.
No, we write up
But if I
tonight.
could submit those to you, I could send those to you tonight.
I need to have the conditions heard today to be on the, we're not going to consider conditions after this hearing tonight unless it's continued, which I don't believe
Okay.
it will be.
All right, if I could just briefly, this five, if I could just state those briefly. Noreen already mentioned the construction period, which sounds like it's consistent with your rules anyway. We would ask that that Riverbend Road not be used for any heavy trucks or any construction traffic that involves any heavy equipment, including cranes or any kind of oversized vehicles. Most of the road is gravel or stone dust. It is susceptible to erosion. We've had problems in the past. So we would like a condition, if the board issues a permit, that any heavy construction equipment remain on Riverside Drive or Harbor Way, and that all construction equipment be obviously be on private property, not parked on a public way or private way. And that if there is any damage to Riverbend Road, that the applicant shall repair that damage and to restore the road to its prior condition after construction has been completed. We'd also ask that construction vehicles not block driveways or any residential properties, and that the board put a condition on the permit that there be no commercial signage, commercial lighting, commercial parking, or any commercial use whatsoever at this property, 11 Riverbend Road.
Mr. Chairman, if I might respond to a
Please.
couple of those? Excuse me, thank you. As for, the construction period, the standard June 15th to Labor Day, June 30th to Labor Day, that's fine. We had already said no parking on the road. We won't block any driveways. That's all, I think that's part of that condition of no parking on the road, that you won't be blocking them. Certainly repairing any damage to the road, I think that's, something the applicant should do if that happens. The comment about not using Riverbend Road for heavy trucks, you've seen a lot. The only access is Riverbend Road. So I think you have to be able to get vehicles down to do the work. But if there's damage, certainly it'll be fixed. The one main condition I would disagree with is the last one, no commercial signage, lighting, or use of the property. I believe, you may have read, if you've read newspaper articles, you've seen that there's been, the neighbors and the owners have been in a little bit of a challenge about possible aquaculture or other future use of the property. That is completely separate from the review that we're here before you. We're here for a single family. What I would request is that you don't insert any condition language in your decision that could be bootstrapped by the neighbors to try to argue to conservation or someone else that something that is out of your jurisdiction was somehow brought in. I just think that is beyond the scope for what you're doing, but all the other conditions seem fine.
How the road is used for residential, commercial use, as far as travel on the road, is typically nothing that this board has ever entertained in the past, so. And are you stating the fact that a condition of the repair of Riverbend Road to its pre-existing condition would be something the applicant would consider?
I think that is reasonable. I should probably turn around and ask my client. Is he,
Go for it.
Yes, and we've participated in improving that road already.
Okay,
absolutely, yes.
all right. Okay. I'd like to go over now the information and documents submitted as part of this application, which will be incorporated in the decision. And I believe it's, all would pull out the review from the April 14th report from Rachel, which was revised on April 29th. Okay. So those are the conditions that are listed there. If you go to page 3. First of all, we have the application hearing documents that are included in this. Are there any changes at all that anyone sees? Attorney?
We will need to add reference to the June 2nd supplemental submission, the photograph, the sketches.
Also the attorney letters.
Yeah, and all the letters, the memos.
So, June 2nd letter from Singer. And what are the other two reports we're putting in here?
There's two additional memos, one from Andrew Singer, one from Daniel submitted to town council
Okay.
when we requested the opinion. I'm not sure what the dates on those are, but
You'll put them in the
Yep.
document, okay. And the other one was Daniel Hill letter, and the other letter was what?
from Attorney Singer.
Yeah, right.
This one also, KP Law.
And the opinion from town council.
Right. Okay. Okay, so on the hearing documents, we're adding 4 documents, the June 2nd letter from Singer, Attorney Hill's letter, Attorney Singer's letter, and, you know, to Attorney Town Council, and the opinion from Town Council. Okay. Regarding the findings and conditions based upon the documents submitted as to this date, we have 12 listed on the report. Are there any additional findings of facts that we feel need to be included? I don't have any.
Can I suggest a finding?
Sure.
The height is pre-existing, non-conforming.
Okay. Find that the height,
Should we also say the height and number of stories?
Well, I think you have to modify number 7, don't you?
Right.
Which says it's conforming.
this is one of the former guiding, it doesn't, but the 7 doesn't say height, it just says the setbacks.
Building height.
Yeah, building height.
8 does, I'm sorry.
No, 7.
Existing dwelling is conforming regarding the north front setback and rear setback, that's 7.
6.
And we're looking at 6, the building height is of the dwelling is pre-existing non-conforming. So what is wrong with that?
Oh, is it already on there?
Yep, number 6 is already on there, yep.
I think that's the revision we did.
So that's it, that's fine, right? We have,
Yeah, you're right, I was looking at the original, it's already
Okay.
been revised once.
all right, thank you.
So when did the revised one come out?
Came out 29.
Okay, may I have it?
All right, I believe we're all set on that. Attorney Singer?
I believe so.
Real quick, I'll look at that real
Sure.
quick.
This is probably where you're gonna add your conditions.
Yes, we're getting there.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We still in open session?
Okay. And,
We're not adding any findings?
so, I don't believe we're, as far as on, we're not adding findings, but on conditions, the conditions that you're recommending would be during the life of the project, there should be no demolition, exterior construction, et cetera, new landscaping between June 30th and Labor Day in the year. That the life of the approved project, all construction vehicles will be parked on the applicant's property and not on any public street or road. The standard violation terms of the conditions, and also a condition that the applicant will make reasonable efforts to repair Riverbend Road if damaged by construction vehicles. Does that sound fine for everybody? Okay. All right. I'd like to make a motion that we vote on adopting the findings of facts, the documents, and the conditions.
So moved.
Second.
Okay? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion that, I'd like to have someone make a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second?
Okay. Chris? All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, obviously, there's 5 of us here tonight, so those voting on this case will be Al Donahue, Brian Sullivan, Chris Murphy, John August, and Ken Dixon. And the chair will entertain a motion to close discussion.
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All those in favor of closing discussion?
Aye.
Any additional discussion by the board on this case? Gentlemen?
Seems like it has to be addressed, the building has to be fixed, and it seems like moving it out of the velocity zone seems like the logical way to go.
Yes, and I do believe the fact that I agree with the town council's opinion. As I previously stated, there are also ample reasons to approve if requested regarding the variance, and as well as just attaching the main house right now to the garage. So I feel the fact that this has a number of reasons why this case should be approved and go forward. I'd like to make a motion, I'd like to ask the clerk to make a motion, please.
All right, case number 2025-15. Jeffrey Lang, manager of 11 River Bend LLC, who was attorney. Andrew Singer, the property is located at 11 River Bend. This granting is consistent with the Gale and Dietrich cases as,
Hold on a second, I'll get it finished. The applicant has been
Yeah.
granted a special permit.
applicant has been granted a special permit. We don't want to forget that, do we?
No, it'd be good not to, I would go for it.
325-54A, and 4 and 5, non-conforming structures. Let's see, the granting is consistent with the Dale and Deidre cases and related cases, as there will be an intensification of one or more existing nonconformities, no new nonconformity, no substantial detriment to the entire neighborhood on a pre-existing nonconforming lot, and as a proposed structure will not create any additional negative impact with regard to traffic, noise, odor, and congestion. Any relief not expressly granted hereunto is hereby denied. All work shall be performed in accordance with the plans submitted with the application and said grant and approval is subject to the following conditions. We're gonna take these conditions that we have.
Right here, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. During the life of the project, there should be no demolition, exterior construction, or new landscape between June 30 and Labor Day of any year. That for the life of the approved project, all construction vehicles will be parked on the applicant's property and not on any public way or street or road. Violation of terms and conditions, the special permit may be enforced as a violation of highway zoning bylaw pursuant to the Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 7, and the highway zoning bylaws as these may be amended from time to time.
The other condition, and actually there's one we might have forgotten about, gentlemen, I hate to go back, but I need to. First of all, the condition, the applicant will make reasonable efforts to repair Riverbend Road if damaged by construction vehicles. I believe we need to, and we already voted on it, but we need to reopen that vote on the conditions. Refer to the approval from the Conservation Commission, because this will have to go in front of the Conservation Commission, and I believe that is gonna be required.
It is required, whether it's a condition or not.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So the other condition is the fact that this is subject to approval by the Harwich Conservation Commission before any building permits are issued.
We've done that before.
And just to make sure we didn't miss it, regarding the granting of the special permit, it's regarding non-conforming structures and uses, attachment 3, height regulations, 325 attachment 2, and area regulations to raise and replace a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling and attached garage pursuant to Howard zoning bylaws 325-54 and MGL chapter 48, section 6.
Mr. Chairman, If I might, just one word, you said attached garage, I think it should be
I
detached
mean, I'm
residential
sorry,
accessory
Detached
garage.
garage, yes, excuse me, I apologize. It's detached garage, I pronounced it incorrectly. Detached garage, thank you. Do I hear a second on this motion?
Second.
Okay. No further discussion? I'd like to vote on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion is approved, 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, we appreciate it.
No, they're all in there. We just went over it and
I know
everybody
that.
approved it. But they will be all listed. We just don't have to read them anymore. Okay. We have everyone review it, so we don't have to go through all that. Which the town council said is fine. Before the start of the 14 Harvest Hollow case, but please have a seat.
Okay.
We had a case, 2025-16, Bonnie Eva, trustees of, and Bonnie Leslie W. Jr. trustees. It's regarding 121 Belmont Road. The case had been continued from April 30th to tonight. I'm the receipt of a letter from Riley Norcross requesting withdrawal. On behalf of our client, we respectfully request to withdraw the above referenced application currently before the zoning board of appeals without prejudice. This request is being made as a client has revised the project design and will proceed with a new proposal that does not require ZBA approval. Please consider this letter as formal notice of withdrawal. I'd like to make a motion that we accept this request to withdraw.
So moved.
Right?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Right, have we'll call the next case. Here you go, Al. Okay, thank you.
It's not coming back.
All right, case number 2025, Peter G. Mitchell and Catherine S. Mitchell, through their attorney, Miriam Rose Esquire, owner of the property located at 14 Harvest Hollow Drive, assessors map 23, parcel C4-14 in the RL zoning district. The applicant seeks a special permit from 325-54A, 1 and 5 non-conforming structures, and 325 attachment 2, table 2, area regulation to construct an addition on a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling pursuant to the Howard zoning bylaws of 325-54 and the Mass General Law 40A, Section 6. The Howard Board of Health submitted comments indicating that the applicant proposed 5-bedroom dwelling and a pre-existing septic is designed for 4-bedroom. Therefore, the new septic system will be required by a licensed septic installer and must apply for a permit prior to the building permit sign-off. The Historical Commission, Highway Department, and the Police Department submitted no concerns. No other comments from town departments or abutters were received.
Okay. Chair asks the applicant to represent introduce themselves.
Certainly. Good evening. I'm Marion Rose from Singer & Singer and Dennis Sport, and I'm here on behalf of Peter Mitchell, who's next to me, for the project at 14 Harvest Hollow Road, which is a cul-de-sac off of Bank Street. We're here, the project involves 3 additions, 2 of which need zoning relief, and they're all on the east side of the property. There's a by right entryway addition in the front of the property that does not need zoning relief because it's conforming as to the setback. If you look at the plans, you'll see we have the combined, and these were hot off the presses today, and I apologize for getting you the two scale large sets today, but they are here. The existing and proposed plans are on the same page. You can see the existing, the lot is non-conforming as to size, it's non-conforming as to frontage, and it includes a single-story garage on, as I'm looking at this, the right-hand side, the east side, that's non-conforming as to that side setback. It's at 14 feet 5. It's also, the existing house is non-conforming as to the west side setback as well. But as you'll see, if you look to the proposed plan, nothing's happening on that west side. It's all happening on the east side. We're here because the changes, the additions that are proposed will still be non-conforming, but they will be less non-conforming than the existing garage. What's happening here is the existing single-story garage is going to be taken down. It's attached to the main house, but it's going to be taken down, and there'll be a new footprint, which is slightly forward and slightly away from that sideline. So there's some improvements there. The proposed construction will be conforming as to building coverage and site coverage. As to height, height is now shown, it's 24 feet, 8 inch, 0.8. And that's unchanged, existing and proposed. Both the side addition, which is a 2-story garage and living area above, that will be slightly further away from that side setback, 14.5 now, 15 as proposed. And the rear also will be more than 14.5 away from that sideline. The coverage is increasing, the coverage, but will still be conforming. The building coverage as existing is 8.9, as proposed is 13, and to be conforming, it has to be 15% or under. Likewise, site coverage, it's 17.7% existing, 21.4 as proposed, where 30% or less is conforming. If you look at the elevations, just in terms of impact to the neighborhood, what's happening here is it's very consistent if you've driven in the neighborhood, the other homes. There's going to be, you'll see a 2-car garage attached to the same facade, but with a larger second floor area. Essentially what they're trying to do is have more usable living space. There's going to be an office where a former small bedroom was below. There's going to be a family room and a kitchen that all connect, and a dedicated mudroom. So meaningful improvements for the family. Because the proposed 2 additions are still within the setback, that's why we're here and needing relief. We must show that, as proposed, the project is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing nonconformities. First, and we think it is for the following reasons. First, there's no change in the use of the property for a permitted single-family residential use. Very important, no new nonconformities will be created. The building coverage, as I've said, and site coverage will increase but remain conforming. The height will remain unchanged and conforming. The project as proposed will lessen an existing setback nonconformity to the east side setback. As proposed, the footprint will be at its closest to the sideline, 15.0. And I know you've gotten there's a tiny discrepancy in these plans. In the most recent plans that we've submitted, it's 15.0, not 15.0. So that needs to be 15.0 in the record.
Not 15.1?
Not 15.1. We believe that the scale and the location of the additions has been thoughtfully designed to create meaningful, improved living conditions for the applicant and their families, and is sensitive to the scale of the other homes in the neighborhood. There's adequate off-site parking for the continued residential use of the property, and no change in traffic flow is anticipated. We don't believe the proposal will create any new nuisances, hazards of congestion, or any harm to the neighborhood or adversely affect the public health, safety, convenience, or general welfare of the town. And to the point about the Board of Health, the applicant is committed to presenting and having approved an adequate new septic system. For those reasons, the applicant respectfully requests the board make a finding that the proposal as submitted will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood and will grant a special permit for the reasons shown. Happy to answer any questions you all have.
Sure, Chris?
I have no questions.
John?
No questions.
No questions.
Jay? What's your timeframe?
If everything goes right, October 15th would be the start.
Now, I don't, are you going to be able to maintain construction vehicles on the lot?
Yes. We can park currently, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 6 cars as it is now. Foot truck, some pickup trucks in there.
Okay. So there's no opposition to that condition? All right. I don't have, I think everything that's in the plans here, it meets requirements of a special permit, particularly looking under the Gale-related cases, and so I really don't have any objections that apparent to me. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak regarding this case? Yes. Why don't you please step forward here, and if you don't mind? Enjoy your walk to the podium.
Hi, I'm Dottie Davies, and I live on Bellbrook Lane.
Okay.
Our land is right up against each other. His garage is on my side, so it like butts up together. Is there any conservation land in there between the two of them?
I am not aware of that, but I did not myself check that out, so. I'm not aware of the conservation has not indicated that there's a reason that they need to go before the conservation.
Okay, because there is a slice that goes down Bellbrook Lane behind my house from the end of the street where the bog is.
Sure.
There's a slice of land there that belongs to the trust. And my other question is, how close is this going to be to my lot line?
I don't have that answer.
I don't have that answer, but we are, well, on that side, it will be no closer than 15 feet from the sideline, from the east sideline, and I'm not sure where her house is.
Are you number 13? Are you number 13?
No, I'm at 20 Bellbrook Lane.
So you're on the other street.
They're right behind 14 Harvest Hollow.
Right.
It will be not as close as the existing dwelling is on that side. It'll be a bit further apart. It will be the 2 stories versus 1, but will be a little further back.
The new construction will actually be about a half a foot further away from the lot line. So it's not, the construction will not be closer to your lot line.
Down here.
What's down here?
Yeah. If you look, it's,
Oh, okay.
is the house we're talking about here. She's right here.
Oh, you're basically going to be,
Back, through the backyard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this one here? This is,
yeah, you're 30.
It's not gonna be any different. I mean, it
It's
looks
not
to
many
be-
difference, it's
It will be
substantial.
smaller, but not different. And I see, I'm actually looking at,
The rear yard is going from 119 to 119, it's staying the same.
Right, so you're almost 120 feet to your lot line on this
I'm
construction.
sorry?
well, no, she's essentially the east side. She's along here.
Okay, Chris says something different, Jimmy.
I'm just looking at that, I don't know where her lot goes,
Okay.
so.
Number 20,
Anyways,
but
your-
You do have the conservation easement between the two lots, so it's 15 feet from the conservation easement, and then whatever that width is. So essentially, it's unchanged, but it'll be 2 stories, if I'm calculating correctly.
Correct.
The house will not be any closer to you than it is right now.
It won't be close to me.
No.
So if, say I wanted to put a fence up, I'd still have room to do that?
On your property, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
okay,
Yeah,
thank
but
you.
it will not change the distance, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Well, thank you for speaking, appreciate the information.
Through the chair, may I make one comment?
Sure.
On the recommended findings and conditions, when you get to that, there was just one correction on number 6. Oh, actually, sorry, on number 5. The existing dwelling is non-conforming to the east and west side, but it is conforming to the front setback, so I'd take the front setback out of that.
Okay, hold on a second here. Number 5 is,
It's just the east and west side.
non-conforming, okay, so that's right, get rid of the front setback. Rachel, you got that?
And if you wanted to be super clear on number 6, the proposed side and rear additions are non-conforming. You could say that, because the front addition is conforming.
You have that change, Rachel?
That's all.
Is there anyone else in the public that'd like to speak regarding this case? Okay. Hearing none, so I can ask, is any final questions?
No question.
Okay, the applicant? All right. All right, so now we're gonna look at, again, as you already started, attorney, regarding the June 25th staff report by Rachel. And I gather you've already gone through it, so let's take a look at the application hearing documents. I think, is that complete? Now, we do have this new document that came today, correct?
Correct.
So,
So it's dated June 20th, 2025.
okay. June 20th, 2025 site plan. By Ryder and Wilcox.
Correct.
All right. And regarding recommended findings and conditions, we did make that one correction. I will recommend that we add the conditions that standard, no demolition or exterior construction between June 30th and Labor Day, maintaining the vehicles all construction vehicles being parked on the property. Approval by the Harwich Health Department will be required, okay, regarding licensed septic installer, and its typical condition regarding violation of terms and conditions of the special permit. Any other conditions that we want to consider? Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the documents, finding the facts and conditions approval as stipulated. Can I have a second? Okay, second by Al. On to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. It's approved, 5-0. And I'd like to have a motion I'd like to ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
How many, okay, all right, Al, who seconded that?
Ken.
Huh?
Ken.
Ken, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved, 5-0. And the voting tonight on this would be, of course, Al, myself, Brian Sullivan, Chris Murphy, John August, and Ken Dixon. And I'll now entertain a motion to close discussion.
So moved.
I have a second, please.
Second.
John? Vote on the motion to close discussion. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Any further discussion regarding this application? Okay. And Al, I'd like to ask the clerk to make a motion in this case, please.
Case number 2025-25, Peter G. Mitchell and Catherine S. Mitchell through their attorney, Marion Rose Esquire. The property is located at 14 Harvest Hollow Drive, Assessors Map 23, parcel C4-14 in an RL zoning district. The applicant has been granted a special permit from 325-54A 1 and 5, non-conforming structures, and 325 attachment 2, table 2, area regulation to construct an addition on a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling pursuant to Howard zoning bylaws of 325-54 and Mass General Law 40A, Section 6. The granting is consistent with the Gale and related cases, and there will be no intensification of one or more existing non-conforming non-conforming, and no substantial detriment to the entire neighborhood on a pre-existing non-conforming lot, and as the proposed structure will not create any additional negative impacts with respect to traffic, noise, odor, or congestion. Any relief not expressly granted hereunder is hereby denied, and all work shall be performed in accordance with the plans submitted with the application. Said grant and approval are subject to the following conditions. During the life of the project, there will be no demolition, exterior construction, or new landscaping between June 30 and Labor Day of any year. That for the life of the project, approved project, all construction vehicles will be parked on the applicant's property and not on any public street or road. The approval of the project by the Harwich Health Department will be required, and a licensed septic installer must apply for a permit prior to the building permit sign-off. Violation of the terms and conditions of the special permit may be enforced as a violation of the Howard zoning bylaws pursuant to MGL Chapter 40A, Section 7, the Howard zoning bylaws, as these may be amended from time to time.
Can I have a second motion?
Second.
Any further discussion by the board? Okay, let's vote on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You have your permit.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
So much. Thanks.
Al, can you call the next case, please?
Case number 2025-26, Daniel J. Trant, trustee for the et al. Margaret E. Trant, through the attorney Miriam Rose Esquire. The owner of the property located at 16 Patricia Lane, Assessors Map 5, parcel D2-16, in the RH1 zoning district. The applicant seeks a special permit from 325-54A and 5 non-conforming structures and uses, and 325 attachment 2, table 2, area regulation to raise and replace their pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling pursuant to the Howard zoning bylaws of 325-54 Mass General Law 40A, Section 6. The Howard's Board of Health submitted comments indicating a licensed septic installer must apply for a permit prior to any building permit sign-off. The Historic Commission, Highway Department, and Police Department submitted comments indicating they had no concerns. Letters were received in support of the application from the following neighbors: Ann Stewart of 28 Patricia Lance, Gabriel Bressler of 36 Ginger Plum Lane, Patrick Hogan of 17 Patricia Lane, and Beth and Jim Mullen at 15 Patricia Lane. And Marcus and Deanan DeBays of 13 Ginger Plum Lane. No other comments from the town departments or the abutters was received.
Okay. And that was, am I correct, 35 Ginger Plum Lane for Marcus and Deneen DeBest. It's pretty good, five abutters in favor. Okay. I'd like to ask the applicant to introduce themselves and those helping you in the presentation.
Thank you. For the record, I'm Marion Rose from Singer and Dennisport, here on behalf of the Trants. They're here tonight, Peggy and Daniel here. And they are ready and willing to answer any questions that you all may have about the project. This project is for a raise and replace. When you look at the site plan, you'll see that the site, the lot, is non-conforming. 40,000 square feet are required, and as is typical in this neighborhood, the existing lot area is 6,073 square feet. Frontage is non-conforming, 150 feet is required, and 70 is provided here. And again, I'm hopeful that you all have driven down this road, Patricia Lane, and have seen the other houses in the neighborhood. It's a mix of houses that are as they were first built, and then others that have been renovated. And there's some immediately to the left of the Trans house is a house that's been renovated, or raised and replaced rather, and it will be comparable to what's proposed here. If you look at the site plan, you'll see that it is a tight site, and the existing house is non-conforming as to both the east side setback, which is the rear setback, and the south side setback. The east side setback, that rear setback, is at 14 feet, and the south is at 8.8. The height, building coverage, and the site coverage are all conforming. As proposed, the height will increase because it's going to be a two-story building rather than a one-story building, but it's conforming. It's at 29.4. The coverages are going to increase as well. And this, I just want to highlight, because this is a 6,000 square foot lot, the percentages, it is right at 35% for site coverage. But when you see that it's right at 35% site coverage, it's currently at 33.9%, and the increase in square footage is just 71 square feet. So the footprint is really not getting larger by much, and it is improving in terms of the setbacks. It's less non-conforming as to those setbacks mentioned. Specifically to the east, at 14.8 existing, it's going to 15.2. I'll grant you that's a smidge, but in this tight lot, it's an improvement. Also in the south, it goes from 8.8 to 9.0. And that one is actually kind of important because that 9.0 is for the bay windows. The actual building is at 11. So it goes from 8.8, in my mind, it goes from 8.8 to 11, which is significant. This design was reviewed and tweaked, and it really was like fitting, something into a puzzle, and they did, I think, the best they could given the circumstances to make a meaningful change here. We're here because what's proposed is within the setbacks and needs zoning relief. And because it's a raise and replace, there are additional requirements for what we need to prove. Because the existing dwelling will be removed, the zoning bylaw requires the applicant's proposed work to meet additional factors, including showing that the proposed work will not cause or contribute to any undue nuisance, hazard, or congestion in the neighborhood, the district, or town, and will not increase any existing nonconformities in building coverage, site coverage, or setback encroachment, and will reduce at least one of the following existing nonconformities: building coverage, site coverage, or setback nonconformities. And here we are reducing those two setback nonconformities. The applicant's request that the board grant a special permit to allow the work as proposed under section 325-54A5 for the following reasons. One, there'll be no change in the use of the property for a permitted single-family residential use. Two, no new nonconformities will be created. That building coverage, site coverage, and height will increase but remain conforming. Three, the project as proposed will, and I'm saying this a bunch of times, will lessen two existing setback nonconformities, both the south and east setback and the rear setback. As proposed, the footprint of the building will be at its closest to side setback 11 feet from the sideline, and the cantilevered windows will also be further back at 9 than the existing footprint at 8.8. Likewise, the proposed dwelling rear setback will be 15.2 from the rear property line at its closest point, where the existing dwelling is 14.8 from the same setback. The number of bedrooms is unchanged. The proposed new septic system will conform to the requirements, and the applicant is committed to securing a Board of Health permit prior to the sign-off for the building permit, as required by the Board of Health. There's no Conservation Commission jurisdiction for the property. We believe that the scale and the location of the additions have been thoughtfully designed to create improvement in living conditions for the applicant. And I think, as you've mentioned, having those 5 different abutters say that they support this is really meaningful here. 2 of those abutters are on either side of the property, so they're the ones who would be most affected by both the building and the construction. We believe there's adequate off-site parking for the continued residential use. The proposal will not create a nuisance, hazard, or congestion, or any harm for the neighborhood, or adversely affect public health, safety, or convenience, or general welfare of the town. For all these reasons, the applicants respectfully request that the board make a finding that the proposal will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood and grant a special permit allowing the project to be completed as shown in the plans. Thank you.
Pleasure. So, I was looking at the bulkhead,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, I had the opportunity to talk to the building commissioner, Tom Weingard.
Okay.
the Building commissioner. And he had a discussion regarding, in the past, I often considered, because a bulkhead was a foundation, and, an extension of the foundation going around,
Mhm.
that the bulkhead had to be within the setback. Okay. That's how we've often in the past
Mhm.
have looked at properties. Very similar to the fact that a pool, in those foundation walls required to be within, the required setback for the area. Tom Weingard recommends the fact that he considers, which we haven't really in the past done so, a bulkhead scenario, a bulkhead situation, to be considered very similar to, and under the same laws, or the rulings of it as being a stoop. And he feels that the appeals board can view the bulkhead, and that doesn't mean a set of stairways going down.
Understand.
If we have a big set of stairways going down, but a bulkhead scenario, given the height of it and so forth, as long as it's under 3 feet,
Mhm.
would qualify as being considered as a stoop under those regulations. Otherwise, in my opinion, if it hadn't been for the opinion from building commissioner, he would allow it.
Mhm.
In the past, we often haven't.
Right.
So I just want to point that out, gentlemen, what I learned from the building commissioner, that he is okay with this plan and would be okay in the future with other proposals of a stoop, of a bulkhead being, it could ease into the setback, and not come under the same requirements as a foundation for the house, or a pool, et cetera. Okay. And of course, everyone can have an opinion and discussion about this, but just want you to know what Mr. Weingard told me just the other day. What is your expected time frame for construction?
Peggy, do you want to come up and?
After Labor Day, probably likely October, mid-October.
Okay. And what is the status of maintaining construction vehicles in the lot?
We have ample room for them.
Okay. Okay, other questions from the board? John?
Just, I think I can see it, but on the drawing, all the gray patios and walkways are removed, but in the black and white drawing,
Right.
everything looks gray to me.
Okay.
So, it looks to me like with the exception of the rinse station and that little stoop, everything in the backyard, which
Yes.
currently the back facing part is all gonna be ripped up.
Correct.
How about the front? Is that like a shell driveway? I'm assuming
It is,
that is also gray on the,
it's a shell
It
driveway.
is a shelter, yeah.
is that remaining, or is that also being removed?
That's remaining.
As we discussed before, that's usually considered part of the lot coverage, right? Do you know, was it calculated in the lot coverage?
I shouldn't have let Dan Croto leave because he would tell me, but,
Because it is tight, as
Right.
you said, right?
right.
I see they're removing part of the shell parking, so
Mhm.
I'm assuming he treated the shell driveway the same way?
Right, he's reduced some of the driveway. I think that's why.
Okay. That was my only question.
I have no question.
No Al? question.
No questions. No questions.
Is there anybody in the public who'd like to speak? Okay, folks, come on up.
Jim Mullen, 15 Patricia Lane. Just here to support Dan and Meg and their family. They've been great neighbors and just want to make sure, support their project.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the support.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak regarding this case? Okay. All 5 support letters and a speaker. I think you probably hit the record for the year so far, so congratulations.
That's all.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
It's all good.
I'm new at this.
Yeah, your hurdle was a bulkhead, so we're all set there.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions from the board to the applicant?
No.
So I'd like to now, let's just address the June 11th report memorandum from Rachel. And looking, do you have that, Attorney Rose?
I do.
Okay. Application hearing documents? Is there any additions?
It needs to include the new site plan that you got today.
Oh, yeah.
That's a revised site plan.
That was on the other case. We don't have a
Oh.
revised.
Yeah, we don't,
yeah.
we didn't
Yeah,
get
this,
into
this one's good.
I was gonna say, I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah.
Obviously,
No
until we have a new site plan, we're not gonna go forward, so we may have to continue the case. We gotta find that site plan. All right. All right, so the documents are all set?
Yes, from my mind, they
Regarding
are.
findings, and any findings?
I have no comments on the findings.
Okay.
I have one question, Brian, though, on south side setback, I guess, we talked about the bump outs and everything. I'm pretty sure they're allowed 2 feet, right?
Yes.
So really, it should be the 11 is what's,
When I went to the building commissioner, that's what they were, to review it initially.
it's 11. 'Cause I
It's
know
11.
there's a bump out, but since it
Mhm.
doesn't extend to the ground, I think the structure is considered to be only 11. Which I think is what's reflected in your application, but not what's reflected in our proposed
But I think it's
finding.
they can extend 2 feet into the required setback, so it would be 2 feet in from 20 feet.
That was 2 feet off the structure, because like we talked about
Go off
with,
the structure.
right.
You mean, okay, this is a bump out that's above ground.
Right.
It can extend out, I forget what the length is.
Right.
I can never go back and look at that one, but it can go out 2 feet.
Right, so I think the structure is 11 feet, the bump out is 9. But the structure is what should be the condition, right, that we're approving.
Oh, I see, so the 9 is not correct.
Right, the 9 is 11,
Okay.
which is what's reflected on their application.
Which is what you said.
All right, I don't believe we need to have I'm fine going forward without having to redo the site plan.
I'm not asking them to redo the site plan, what I'm worried about is if we approve it at 9 feet, now the 9 feet is a pre-existing condition,
I see.
and it's 11. For a future project on this site, not this one, again, don't worry, I'm not opposed to the project. I'm just trying to get the information
Right.
correct for the,
So you're saying the south side setback should say 11?
should say 11.
Should say 11. I'd agree with that.
I'm worried if you leave it at 9 and 20 years from now, someone wants to raise and replace it again, the next owners, then they go to 9 feet. But it's not 9 feet we're approving, it's 11.
Seems simple.
Typically, I don't do this, but, and I advise not to in the past, but, can we have Rose, can we have your architect, Memorial Engineering, resubmit the plan showing 11 feet there,
Sure.
and take the 9 out of it,
Mhm.
and get it to Rachel?
Yep.
Okay. I'd rather do that than continue the meeting. It's a minor situation.
We have, I mean, I don't know if this is sufficient, but we
both of
have,
them,
we have
It
both.
shows 11, it shows 9.
Correct.
So John, what you're saying here is if we approve this, that means we're giving a pre-approval
But if you,
of 9 feet versus 11.
I'm just saying that our statement of facts needs to say 11. As is.
You're all set with that?
It does say 11.
Oh, it does over there? Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah, these plans don't need to be redone.
Right.
All right.
These plans are fine.
Okay, over there says 11. Okay, all right, so he's showing the 9 and the bump
Oh, there
out.
we go.
Yeah, that's what I was pointing out.
So we're all
Both the
set.
plans
Never
and
mind.
the application say
Yeah,
11, but our
we're all
statement of
set.
facts.
Thank you.
no worries.
Okay, appreciate the, y'all working together and showing me the, okay. And as far as conditions, usual time frame of June 30th from Labor Day, include construction vehicles on the property. Of course, the Harwich Health Department needs to require a licensed septic installer to apply for a permit, et cetera, in the typical violation of terms, conditions. Those are the 4 conditions I'm recommending. Anybody else have any others?
No.
Okay. I'd like to, Chair makes a motion to accept the documents, findings of facts, and conditions of approval as stipulated. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Al. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'd like to hear a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Vote of the closing.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 5-0. Voting this evening is Al, myself, Chris Murphy, John August, and Ken Dixon. And I'd like to entertain a motion to close discussion.
Second.
Okay, so who was the first? Was it?
Give it to Al.
Okay. You can we'll throw him one. All right, and who seconded it, please?
Second.
Okay, John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, I'd like to ask the clerk to make a motion in this case.
Okay, case number 2025-26. Daniel J. Trent, trustees for the et al. Margaret E. Trent, trustee, through their attorney, Miriam Rose Esquire. Property is located at 16 Patricia Lane, assesses map 5, parcel D2-16 in an RH1 zoning district. The applicant has been granted a special permit, 325-54A and 5, non-conforming structures and uses, 325, attachment 2, table 2, area regulation, to raise and replace their pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling pursuant to the Howard zoning bylaws of 325-54 and Mass General Laws 48, Section 6. Granting is consistent with the Gale and related cases, as there will be an intensification of one or more nonconformities, no new nonconformities, and no substantial detriment to the entire neighborhood on a pre-existing nonconforming lot. As the proposed structure will not create any additional negative impacts with respect to noise, traffic, odor, and congestion. Any relief not expressly granted hereunto is hereby denied. All work shall be performed in accordance with the plans submitted with the application, and said grant and approval are subject to the following conditions. Excuse me. During the life of the project, there be no new demolition, exterior construction, and no new landscaping between the time of June 30 until the Labor Day of any year. Secondly, that for the life of the project, all construction vehicles will be parked on the applicant's property and not on any public street or road. 3, the Howard Health Department will be required a licensed septic installer to apply for a permit prior to building permit sign-off. And 4th, the violation of any terms and conditions of this special permit may be enforced as a violation of the Howard zoning bylaws pursuant to the Mass General Law of Chapter 48, Section 7, and the Howard zoning bylaw, as these may be amended from time to time.
Do I have a second for this motion?
Second.
Any further discussion, gentlemen? And therefore, I'd like to have a vote of the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved, 5-0. You have your permit.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I request a quick break? Sure. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Okay, welcome back.
Stephen, is that our deal?
And I'd like to have the clerk call the next case.
All right, case number 2025-27. Karen Hazat, LaShawn, through Neil Hopkins, 311 Paddock Path. Owner of the property located at 20 Connecticut Ave, Assessors Map 17, parcel X1-103 in the RR zoning district. Yet applicant seeks a variance, excuse me, from 325, 54A and 1 in non-conforming structures and uses, 325. Attachment to Table 2, area regulation, to construct and attach to garage to a single-family dwelling pursuant to the Howard zoning bylaw 325, 52, and Mass General Law 40A, Section 10. The Howard Board of Health submitted comments indicating that licensed septic installer must inspect the system and submit their report prior to the building permit sign-off. The Historic Commission, Highway Department, Police Department submitted comments indicating they had no concerns. No other comments from other town departments or abutters were received. The chairman asked the applicant or representative to introduce themselves, and that's your point.
Yeah, but it's okay, you can take over. Having a coup here, John. Okay, I'd like to have, as the clerk said, I'd like to have the applicant representative introduce themselves.
Good evening, Board. My name is Niall Hopkins with Hopkins Corp. This is my son Seamus.
Hey,
He's
Seamus.
giving us a hand tonight. So we're here representing Miss Roshan. The request is to build a single-car garage, 2-car deep, on the side of our house. Right now, it'll be on the north side of the house. The request is for a minor relief. There will be no impact to the neighborhood with this project. No increase in flow, the design complements every house in the neighborhood. They're single-story ranches. We're not increasing the height. There's no change in use in the property. It still remains a single-family house. The lady has owned it since 2000, and she intends to stay there. Her desire initially was to have a 2-car garage, two-car wide, but we amended the drawing just to allow for 2 cars deep. And we're requesting that the board approve this application.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think, here's the problem. You know, a variance needs to be based upon relief from, because of conditions of the land. Now, everything you said, I totally agree with you regarding that this addition reflects pretty much the whole neighborhood. All right. Now, there's some good news coming up here in a moment. Okay. I drove around the neighborhood. I even walked part of it. I kind of looked at setbacks from various houses, and overall, there are other buildings on the lot, in the neighborhood, which have similar side setbacks as what is being proposed. Okay. But still, our board can't, well, we shouldn't be approving a new nonconformity unless it is a variance, as you've applied for, that's based upon, conditions, soil conditions, conditions of land, whatever it might be, that forces the building to be inside the setback. So I got to the office, and the building department, and Rachel was there, and the building inspector, and I proposed the issue. And Rachel and the building inspector came up with the fact that, boy, was this neighborhood possibly once a flexible cluster, which comes under, and we can get you information on this, but comes under 325-101 on the codes. So we pulled a subdivision plan that was back from June of 1962. And it shows that this was, it appears to be, again, we don't have confirmation on this thing, but it appears to be a cluster development. One reason that Rachel pointed out was the fact that it shows a recreational area in the middle of the development. Okay, and I don't have, I started on copies of everybody, and I probably should have done that. Rachel, is the office open? Can we possibly get some quick copies of everybody?
Mr.
I
Chairman,
appreciate that.
you're making reference to 325-101. I'm looking in our zoning manual. I don't see a 325-101.
Haven't found it yet either.
Yeah, it's in the book I have.
Do you have your book?
Page, the page number.
Okay.
Probably not.
But this is,
It's right after 325.
talks about the Six Ponds Special District.
Oh, you got it.
In part of it, but it's also gets into, according to the building commissioner.
Okay.
All right, so we're looking at the whole neighborhood, and it shows everyone with, you know, I think it was under 100-foot frontages. And, you know, it's, and basically, when you get to a, per the building inspector, building commissioner, you know, and again, it needs to be researched, and we're not, tonight isn't gonna happen as far as,
Okay.
need to be to continue, in my recommendation. I'm just one person. The whole board here has to speak, and, but, you know, the current code for a flexible cluster development is 100-foot frontage, 20-foot front setback, and 10-foot minimum side and rear setback. The recommendation from the building commissioner is that you need to review your deed in the original subdivision plan, which should be referenced on the original property deed. Some deeds will have the cluster development and setback information, you know, on the deed. Then you need to request records from the planning department.
Okay,
And I would also, the recommendation is to ask your land surveyor what information he may have.
thank you very much.
Now, the surveyor showed a land court plan of 20373-1 is referenced, but that might be a later filing with the original house construction, because your house was constructed well after 1962.
Mm-hmm.
So it was vacant land from the original subdivision. That's my understanding or probability is. So, basically, and if you look at this, gentleman, right in the middle, you'll see where it says 110 recreational area. That is typical of what is in a cluster development. So, that being the case here,
So if we can demonstrate that this was a cluster development,
we need to find all the deed information, everything else, and the fact that we need to support the reasons why you would come under at least the setback code, setback requirements, and that it was approved as a cluster development. It sure, by looking at this plan, seems to be that case.
okay?
Okay? And then, basically, if it does fall under the cluster development, what you're proposing falls under what the building commissioner gave me as far as being the setbacks required.
Okay.
You may well be able to get all the information, refile a building permit with the, sure, you don't necessarily come back here. We're gonna do continuance, in case you do,
Okay.
but the building commissioner, again, I don't wanna end the meeting here, because we got a bunch of guys here that have their input as well. The building commissioner then, if he feels you qualified as a, you know, under the
The cluster
cluster
development.
development, then you can, he,
So then we wouldn't have to apply for a variance, that we would just,
you can't apply by variance. We're not gonna, look,
Okay.
I'm only one member of the board. I'm not gonna approve a variance,
okay.
based upon the fact that there's no conditions based upon the land, et cetera, in soil conditions, that warrants a variance, all right?
It's just the
And regarding the
hardest.
special permit, the house currently, I don't believe has any existing nonconformities, or does it?
It does.
Wait a minute, does it?
Yes, it does, and it's
Doesn't
on
go
the
to
other
the
side.
sides. Right, so actually,
Other side.
the other side. So if, the building commission may indicate the fact that you may have to come back here, because it is an existing, one of your sides.
Pre-existing non-conforming,
It would, but if it was a cluster development, it would not be non-conforming.
True.
That's right, yeah, right, so if it comes under,
Setbacks are smaller.
that's
yeah.
right, so it comes under cluster development, you should be all set,
Okay.
okay?
I just want to clarify that the building department would need to see records, we'd have to find the records. We can show earlier deeds that reference the planning board decision or what those setbacks are. Or if we could find your planning board decision, then we can, the building commissioner can then make a determination.
And where are the archives? Here? Or do you have access to them, or do I have
So
to?
you can go to the planning department and see how far back those records go, but you may need to do some deed research with Barnstable County.
Okay.
Right, obviously, if you see this plan here, I mean, the plan, it does not say cluster development, okay, but it certainly looks like it, all right? And down the bottom here, it says a copy of this plan is in the land registration office. It gives you November 19th, 1962.
Okay.
So,
Seems
I'm
like-
pretty sure, I mean, that's how it was done here, and I think you'll be able to work through it.
So, I just have to go to the registry, find this, bring it back to you?
So what the building commissioner is gonna be looking for is either deeds that reference the cluster subdivision and state what those setbacks were, or or a recorded planning board decision that states that it's a cluster subdivision and what the setbacks are. So we have the plan, but we need the planning board decision or deeds that reference what the setbacks are for this cluster subdivision.
Okay, and so we may be able to find that through archives in the town of Harwich?
The planning board decision either with the planning department, or it should be recorded somewhere with the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds as well.
Okay.
And ask your engineer, ask your land surveyor, I mean, he's, you know,
Mhm.
what he dug up. But, I'm very hopeful for you that this should go fine
Okay.
under a cluster development.
So the board would not be swayed to approve
Well,
it as,
this person on the board
Okay.
isn't, okay? Now, we haven't heard from the others,
okay.
all right, so we're gonna do that right now. Any questions or comments, starting with John?
I'm glad you brought that up, Brian, because I had a similar issue with, I mean, this creates a nonconformity that's not there, right?
Right.
So it's a pretty high bar for the variance. But if this cluster development thing is true, that resolves it.
Ken?
Ditto.
Al?
Yes, I agree with them.
And who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't, You're right, who wouldn't? But you can get this, like, I would follow the directions that Rachel gives you
Mhm.
to maybe make it a little easier for you to gain access to this information that you're gonna need.
So, you know, start with your engineer, let him know what's happening,
Okay.
all right? He may give you some directions as far as finding information at the land court. You know, if that's, land court has it, and they've got the record of deed of the cluster development, all that kind of good stuff, and it's on the deed, it's some deed back in 62.
So, just to clarify, and I'll follow up with those, so if I found a deed from any one of these properties in
No,
that?
no, your property.
Your property.
Okay,
I mean, obviously, you know what, I mean, I would think the fact that if 102 or 104, they have it on theirs, it would be reasonable to assume.
that's what I'm just saying, if I were to
If-
find it, I'm just making
As a-
it simple for
A
myself.
punt, yes. In my opinion, you know, but again, it's up to, in my opinion, you know, but it's up to the building commissioner. If
Okay.
you want, you know, go forward without having it back to the board here, that obviously you might consider it reasonable that information was found elsewhere. Information found elsewhere on the lot would refer to the fact that this was a cluster development approved by a planning board to verify this. And it should, so there's other alternatives on finding the correct information.
Okay.
You know, and then, you may at the same time, you know, file a request to the planning board, the planning department, so they can find these records. And that won't necessarily happen overnight.
I understand.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, let's just finish through all this, so I think we're all in agreement here. Would you like to make a
We will.
request for a continuance?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that we continue this hearing. And I think I did not. I think I would have been prepared for continuance since I talked about it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we could, just without signing anything, continue to July 30th, but while I'm here, should I just have Rachel, the representative, sign this document as far as the continuance, so he can go later on if he needs to?
That just adds a lot more time to it.
Right. Okay. So,
I can't imagine it being done in a month.
so it's,
Mr. Chairman, if I could, while he's
Yeah.
working on that, this request does not meet the standard for variance.
Okay.
So your only option is to find the documents that he's talking about.
Okay. I'll come up.
no, it's okay. So if you could, sign right there, appreciate it. Oh, let me sign here. Okay. And then I'll get you, you'll be sent, do you have the email address?
Yeah.
Okay. So, we're now continuing, like the motion to continue this meeting till, July 28th? July 30th. And, by the way, that document you signed allows, if you need to come back, and it's gonna be after July 30th, the document you just signed, allows up to, I think it's 180 days,
Okay, great.
you know, continuance, okay? All right? So that's my motion. All those, I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Second, all right, motion continued by Ken. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
my pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Okay. July what? July 30th. Let's have the clerk call the next case.
Next case number 2025-28. Patricia M. Soul, 16 Earl Terrace, West Harwich. Property is located at 16 Earl Terrace, assessors map 12, parcel N1-27 in the RH1 zoning district. The applicant seeks a special permit from 325-54A and 4 and 5. Non-conforming structures and uses, 325. Attachment 2, table area regulations to construct an addition on a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling pursuant to the Harwich zoning bylaws of 325-54, Mass General Law 40A, Section 6. The Howard Board of Health submitted comments indicating a licensed septic installer must inspect your system and submit their report to the department prior to building permit sign-off. The Historic Commission, Highway Department, Police Department submitted comments indicating no concerns. Let's see.
Good evening.
I'd like to have the applicant introduce yourselves and
I'm Patrice Soul, at 16 Earl Terrace, and I think my application is pretty straightforward. I didn't bring an attorney just to read over all the numbers that I know you can read for yourself. Basically.
there's one available should you want to hire one now.
That's right. Basically, I think most of you probably know these little cottages around Earl Terrace, and how small the bedrooms are and the closet. So basically what I'd like to do is take that little small bedroom and turn it into a full bath and bring the water heater in, winterize it the whole area a little bit more. That I don't need a special permit for, but to replace that small bedroom, I just would like to add a bedroom and mudroom on the back of the house, which, as you can see from the site coverage and building coverage and setbacks on all sides, doesn't make it any more non-conforming than it is.
Okay. Well, first of all, I thoroughly enjoyed your write-up
Oh.
to the board.
I thought I'd keep it light.
I always enjoy reading human interest side of things. We did, gonna read it was not in opposition, we did receive a butters letter. Okay. So, on writing about the proposed addition at 16 Earl Terrace, we do not oppose the addition, but we do have a question. So, that's why I'm posing the question to you. As the owners of 12 Earl Terrace, this is from Patrick O'Connor, okay? Patrick and Dorothy O'Connor. Okay. Our backyard runs behind 16 Earl Terrace. The 16 Earl Terrace property has a shed that sits on our property. So the question here is, asking the board if we're gonna require the fact that you move the shed as part of, approving your application tonight. Typically, to discuss this, that hasn't been, I don't believe I don't know how long the shed's been there.
Been there since it was as far back as
So,
I can see.
and I forget the exact legal term,
Right.
Mr. Donovan can help me out with that, but basically, I do believe it does mean the fact that since it's been there that long,
Yeah,
it's earned the right to keep it there.
that's right.
Okay. But I do want to pass on the fact that you have a neighbor that wishes perhaps you would move the shed off their property.
Right, and I think when the O'Connors bought the piece of properties behind several of the houses there, they went down the street and asked everyone to remove their sheds, because there are many in people's backyards that were on their property. And an attorney representing one of the people on the street sent them a letter stating that they had been there for decades, and so that we wouldn't have to take down. However, the shed is pretty old, so I'm not gonna rebuild it. I'm not gonna, and I can certainly have a discussion with the O'Connors about taking it down.
We're, at least from my point of view, we're not in a position to order it to be moved with this, with any kind of permit, but I want to pass on the request of an abutter,
Okay.
and if you, whatever you can work out, that'd be great. Both seeing neighbors getting along, okay? What is your time frame on the project?
Probably October 1.
And I know it's a small lot, but actually, I do think it's, first of all, you can probably, your contractor should be able to maintain vehicles on your site.
Yes.
Okay,
There's plenty of room in the front.
so probably have that condition. Okay. All right, other questions? Chris?
I don't have any questions.
John?
None.
None.
Okay.
Other than, are you related to the Nancy Sewell in town, or?
No, I don't believe so.
Another Sewell around?
There's a lot of George Soule actually came over in the Mayflower, and there were, on the South Shore, there's actually many, many Souls.
Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak regarding this case? Okay, all right. Hearing none, any final words from yourself on this?
Nope.
Okay. Any other additional questions for the applicant?
Nope.
No. Okay, so, I don't know if you have, and we'll just go through this thing, the listing of documents and so forth. I don't know if you have it in front of you, but just going to confirm everything here. So on page 3 of Joan and Patricia of the June 11th report from Rachel, any changes to the application and hearing documents that are included? Okay. Any additional findings of facts or, recommended findings that you have that aren't not included? Okay. So for conditions for this, possible approval, I would recommend the date requirement, maintain construction vehicles on the property, of course, approval to the Harwich Health Department before any permit sign-off, and the typical violation of terms and conditions. Any other conditions we want to discuss? All right, if that being the case, Chair asks for motion to accept the documents, findings of facts, and conditions of approval as stipulated.
So moved.
Okay, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to have a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
I can. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Members assigned voting, Al Donahue, myself, Chris Murphy, John August, and Kenneth Dixon. And I'll entertain a motion to close discussion.
So moved.
Okay?
Second.
I'll let you do it. Can I have a vote on the motion to close? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any additional discussion with the applicant? She's already packing her bags. I mean, look at
I didn't know this went on
I mean,
so
everybody-
long. I'm like starving.
you can't go to the decision. All right, I'd like to have the clerk make a motion,
Okay,
please.
the clerk has a comment. The Mayflower had to be the size of the Queen Mary by the name of people who are claiming coming over.
I have the chart.
All right, 2025, case number 2025-28, Patricia M. Soule, 16 Earl Road, West Harwich. One of the property located at 16 Earl Terrace. Excuse me, this is not Earl Road, it's Earl Terrace, assessors map 12 parcel N1-27. The applicant, an RH1 zoning district, the applicant has been granted a special permit from 32554, 4 and 5 non-conforming structures and uses, and 325 attachment to Table 2 area regulation to construct an addition to the pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling pursuant to Howard zoning bylaw, 32554 Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6. Granting is consistent with the Gale and related cases. There will be an intensification of one or more existing nonconformities, no new nonconformities, no substantial detriment to the entire neighborhood on a pre-existing nonconforming lot. And as the proposed structure will not create any additional negative impacts with respect to traffic, noise, odor, and congestion, any relief expressly granted hereunder is hereby denied. All work shall be performed in accordance with the plan submitted with the application, and the grant and approval are subject to the following conditions. During the life of the project, there will be no demolition, exterior construction, or new landscaping between June 30 and Labor Day of any year. During the life of the project, the approved project, all construction vehicles will be parked on the applicant's property and not on any public street or road. 3, the subject of approval by the Howard Health Department, which will require a licensed septic installer, must inspect the system and submit their report to the department prior to the building permit sign-off. A violation of the terms and conditions of the special permit may be enforced as a violation of the Howard zoning bylaw pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 7, and the Howard zoning bylaw, as these may be amended from time to time.
Do I have a second, please?
Second.
I chose John.
You got John? Okay, all right.
Thanks, Al.
Any further discussion by the board? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now you can go.
Okay. Thank you very much,
You have your permit.
and hope you go tonight.
Have the clerk call the next case, please. Lauren, there you go.
Thank you very much, Case number 2025-29, Capidiem LLC, through the attorney William Crowe Esquire and Michael Donovan Esquire, owners of the property located on 12C Way, Assessors Map 2, parcel A1-65. An RH1 zoning district, the applicant seeks a special permit or all the alternative variants from 325-54A, non-conforming structures and uses, and 325, attachment 2, table 2, area regulation, 325, attachment 3, table 3, height and bulk regulations to raise and replace their pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling pursuant to the Howard zoning bylaw 325, 54, and Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Sections 6 and 10. The Howard Board of Health submitted comments stating that the Title V report is necessary as all risers and inspection port must be brought to 6 feet with 6 inches, I'm sorry. That's a long distance I gave you. 6 inches of finished grade. The Conservation Department submitted comments stating that the proposed work crosses into an AE floodplain, and the proposed project will need to go before the Conservation Commission. The Historic Commission, the Highway Department, the Police Department submitted comments indicating no concern. Two letters of support on the project received by John and Donna Donovan of 2 Seaway and Elaine Monahan of 8 Seaway. No other comments from the other town departments and the butters were received.
The chair would like to ask the applicant representative to introduce themselves, anyone helping you to present this application.
Good evening. Michael Donovan, representing the applicants. So Don and Beth Larson are right here, the owners of KP Diem LLC.
KBD.
Get it? KP? And,
As long as you have that spelled properly.
right. So this property is 12 Seaway, which is in the old Mill Point neighborhood. Just one entrance over in West Harwich before you get over into the Herring River. And they're looking to raise and replace the existing structure, the building that's there. It's a house with a one-car garage now, and they want to replace it. Very similar spot where it is, but put a two-car garage in there, and it's going to extend further south on the lot. What I wanted to do is there was a last-minute change that doesn't, and I'll explain in a second, doesn't affect anything because it was in an area that is conforming now, and it will still conform. And both the site and building coverages are below the amounts. I just updated the zoning chart on the application so that it was there. On the site plan and on the building plans, we highlighted what was changed so that it jumps right out at you. So on the site plan, it's in purple, and it's on the west side. And in the building plans, it's in blue. Like I said, it's a 2-foot enlarged the garage 2 feet on the west side. Just to orient you, that's going to be on the left side of the site plan, the front left corner of the house. So everything else is exactly the same. What that does is it creates, the west setback was 32.5, now it's 30.5, so all well outside the 20-foot setback. And the building coverages were 18.4 proposed, now it's 18.7. And the site coverage is 27.5, before was the proposed number, now it's 27.8. So it just raised those to 0.3%, still well below the 30 and 35% markers for building coverage and site coverage. So I just wanted to orient you that it doesn't change everything you've looked at before, it's just that small tweak to it. So to get back to probably what you've looked at, there's just 2 nonconformities to this lot. One is the lot size itself, which obviously is staying the same, and nothing's changing on that. And the other is the setback on the east side. As you can see, this is a lot, it's a corner lot. The front door is on Pine Lane, and the house will still be oriented in that direction, even though it has a Seaway address to it. And Seaway is on the east side of the building. And so what they're looking to do, we gave you the site plan, it's superimposed, so you can see where the house was before. That's the red outline with the little lines, and then the black outline is the new house. So you can see it's very similar location, it's just a slight change to it, but it extends further back in the lot, further on the south side. So for the purposes of a special permit, we need a special permit, both because the east side is non-conforming, and we're adding some within the setback. You can see on that southeast corner of the house. And apropos of what was being discussed earlier, the existing is either, depending on how you look at it, 21.3 from Seaway to the bulkhead, or 21.8 to the building. And we put them both there on that chart, I mean, on the site plan, because I think, as was discussed earlier by the chairman, there's kind of an open issue of, do you measure the setback to the bulkhead, or do you measure it to the building wall itself?
Well, right now, we're at the building wall.
Okay.
For the last case.
For the last case, yep. And that's fine.
Recommendations of the building commissioner,
Yep,
he's looking at the
but it,
bulkhead as being, as a stoop, which means the fact that you're not putting.
you're not putting it, okay, so then it would be the 21.8. Now, the proposed, the building is right at the 21.8, and now we have a stairway down to the basement in place of where the bulkhead is. The stairway is at 16.2. And so we put 21.8, the building, as the setback. And then I had them put on the plan the 16.2, because I believe, using what I think is being discussed here, is the section 325-18F, that open terraces or steps, stoop, or similar structure under 4 feet in height, you're up to half the required yard setback. So there's a 25-foot setback from Seaway. Half of that would be 12.5, and the stairway is 16.2, so it's outside of that. So we were viewing it as that's conforming. The part that's non-conforming is the house at 21.8.
All right. The stairway, as you're showing it, is at, the foundation of it is at 21.3 feet, correct?
No, I'm sorry, that's the existing to the bulkhead. That's in red. The red is the existing.
Okay.
Proposed stairway is 16.2.
Yeah, it's written down towards the southeast corner, almost onto Seaway, where it says 16.2 proposed stairwell.
But I was trying to envision it off the drawings.
Yeah,
Is there basically a concrete slab that extends the whole length? Because the stair, where it shows the line to the 16.2 does not appear from drawing A2 to be where the stairs are.
the stairs, so if you look at it, yeah, A2, or even A3 maybe, where it says areaway.
Well, that's the thing, so is that areaway an entire enclosed foundation, and then the stairs are only in the last third of it?
Correct, the stairs go down to where you're kind of seeing it, it ends up close to that doorway.
You following this? You're not
So
following
it's almost like a patio until you get to the stairs.
Over here, right?
Correct, yes.
Trying to-
Below, but below ground,
Right.
yeah, yeah, correct. Below ground, yeah.
Okay. And the existing house is what?
Right here's the red, right there.
Which is 21.8.
21 point, there's the bulkhead.
Yeah.
But as you
So-
walk up from Seaway, if you walked up the side of the yard up to Seaway, are you gonna get to that basement door?
No, you're gonna walk at the,
The only way to get to it is from the front down the stairs.
correct. Yep, to come down those stairs
Okay.
to that area. And so if the stairs were 4 feet high, down to ground level,
I hear you saying, I understand that,
Okay.
but this is, well, I'm not, well, why don't you finish your presentation, and then I want to ask my question.
Sure. So what I was trying to point out is it's either, the setback of the proposed is either the house at 21.8, or if the panel feels that bylaw section does not apply, where you get half of the setback, it would then be the 16.2, which is the setback from the road to that stairway and stairwalk area.
But that's creating a new nonconformity with 16.2.
No, it's already non-conforming because it's a 25-foot setback. So,
Oh, I see
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Right, because it's considered a front setback because it's on a corner lot.
Right.
Right, so it's all non-conforming, there's no doubt about that. It's just a question of,
So the stairway being a 16.2, you're saying the fact that using Gale and whatever, that it's an intensification of a pre-existing nonconformity.
correct. It would either be that the 16.2 falls within the bylaw and it's conforming, and we're only at 21.8 non-conforming, or it doesn't comply with the bylaw, and we're at 16.8, and we're asking for, under the Gale case, to increase the non-conformity from 21.8 to the 16.2.
The clarification I have from the building commissioner was that he would consider a bulkhead scenario as coming under the stoop requirements.
Yep.
However, full stairwells going down with, foundation walls into the ground, except, does not come under the stoop interpretation in his point of view. That's just very similar to as if it was a pool, foundation wall,
Okay, okay.
okay?
So that's-
So, so if there wasn't any pre-existing nonconformity,
Correct, if there wasn't, but I just
But
want to be
there
clear.
is.
There is, okay.
I understand there
Yeah,
is, but
okay,
I just want to, for the future going forward, because this won't be your last case in front of this board, I'm sure.
Yep.
The stairwells going down like that with concrete, foundation walls,
Holding up, yep.
basically has to be either a pre-existing nonconformity, but we cannot create a new nonconformity with that stairwell,
Without a variance.
without a variance,
Obviously,
correct.
yep.
If a variant, for any particular reason, because of shape, topography, whatever, yes, all right? But it'd have to be a variance. But it could not be done under a special permit regarding something that created a new nonconformity.
Yep.
You aren't in this case because you're already, the setback is already under 25 feet, so it's
Correct.
already a pre-existing nonconformity. So this board could consider it under Gale.
Yep.
Okay.
Um,
From my point of view.
Yes. So then we would be asking for, a special permit on that east side to be able to go from the 21.8 to the 16.2, recognizing that, in effect, that would be the case, but I would, argue that that extra 5 feet is nothing that's protruding up, it's below ground, and it would be a real candidate for a special permit under the Gale case, that there is no substantial detriment to the entire neighborhood based off of the intensification on that east side setback from the non-conforming 21.8 to a non-conforming 16.2.
In fact, the whole neighborhood looks at it as an upgrade, it sounds like.
I believe so. I mean, we have a couple of letters, and, I think that you read where that we're very much in support of it. The house directly to the south of it just finished up a raise and replace about a year ago, and was well-received by the neighborhood, and they're doing something very similar. They're using the same builder, actually. I think they liked the result of what they saw. And so yeah, they're saying the house is very similar to where it is. It's going a little bit further to the east, and that's mainly to be able to get access to the basement by having to put that stairwell in that area. And we'd submit that and the whole project itself is not a substantial detriment to the entire neighborhood, and the two people in the neighborhood that have weighed in are very much in favor of the project that's there. And I think that's all that I have. I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you have.
You're not conflicted from the other Donovan recommending approval, are you?
I am not, actually, no, there's not a relationship there. On the Cape Ann in Boston, there's more than a couple Donovans around.
They probably came over on the 80 Mayflower.
I don't know as many souls, but yeah, exactly. I was glad we got the story out of the way, so I didn't have any pressure on me when I came up,
Timeframe?
They would like to start in the fall, and they can house the construction vehicles on site.
Is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak? Okay, hearing none. Any comments or questions for the, oh, wait, I have mine. John, any questions?
No, I think we answered it in 16.2. I think when we do get to the statement of findings of fact, we need to make sure it says the 16.2.
Okay. Ken?
None.
Al?
No.
Okay. All right,
It does say 15.2.
so seeing no one in the public, so let's refer to the memorandum of June 16th.
As Ken pointed out, it already says 16.2, so. Good.
Okay. Application and hearing documents which are included. Any questions there? We have to reference the new one.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. So the site plan, the newest one has a revision date of June 24th. I think we could just put,
In revision of June 24th.
Yep.
Okay.
and so that's the Clark Engineering site plan, and then the architectural and elevation plans, the revision date is June 25th.
Okay, wait a minute, I just filed this up. Wait a minute, you're talking about the drawings from Eastwood Companies?
No, the Eastwood Companies is revision date of June 25th, but there's the site plan from Clark Engineering.
Right, okay, Clark, the, item 3 has been revision date of June 24th.
Yeah, unfortunately, for some reason, I can't put my hands on the site summary.
Item 4 is, also needs to be revised.
Item 4 has been revised to revision of June 25th.
Yep.
And item 3 has been revision of June 24th, correct?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that settles that on documents. Recommended findings and conditions based upon documents submitted on this date. Any questions on any of this?
No.
And then we're gonna use the typical, just gonna say, the conditions would be life of the project, June 30th. All construction vehicles being on the site.
Yep.
Subject to approval of the Harwich Board of Health before sign off. Subject to approval of the Conservation Commission,
Correct?
Department and Commission, and the typical violation terms and conditions.
Yes.
Those are the conditions, the 5 conditions. Everyone agreeing on that?
Yes.
Yes.
So, that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the documents, findings of facts, and conditions of approval as stipulated. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approved, 5-0. I'd like to have a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Okay, I have a second.
Second.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, signed and voting is Al, myself, Chris, John August, and Ken Dixon. And I'd like to have a motion to close discussion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I think my left arm be getting bigger by this point. Okay, I'd like to have the chair, the clerk make a motion.
You did get promoted.
Well, you started taking over earlier, so I was.
Alrighty, let's see.
Find it for you.
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
Right down here.
Yep. All right, case number 2025-29, Cape A Dam, LLC, through the attorney, actually Michael Donovan, Esquire, The owners of property located at 12C Way, Assessors Map 2, Parcel A1-65 in the RH1 zoning district. The applicant has been granted a special permit from 325-54A, non-conforming structures and uses, and 325, attachment 2, table 2, area regulation, 325, attachment 3, table 3, height and bulk regulation, raise and replace the pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling pursuant to the Harwich zoning bylaws of 325, 52, and 54, Mass General Law 40A, Section 6. Granting is consistent with the Gale and related cases, and there will be an intensification of one or more existing nonconformities and no new nonconformities, and no substantial detriment to the entire neighborhood on a pre-existing nonconforming lot, and the proposed structure will not create any additional negative impacts with respect to traffic, noise, odor, and congestion. Any relief not expressly granted hereunto is hereby denied, and all work shall be performed in accordance with the plan submitted with this application. Said grant and approval are subject to the following conditions. During the life of the project, there shall be no demolition or exterior construction or new landscape between June 30 and Labor Day of any year. That the life of the approved project, all construction vehicles will be parked on the applicant's property and not on the public street or road. The subject to approval of the Howard zoning Board of Health before the sign-off on the building permit. The subject to approval by the Howard Conservation Department and Commission before sign-off of the building permits. A violation of the terms and conditions of the special permit may be enforced as a violation of the Harwich zoning bylaws pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 7, and the Howard zoning bylaws as these may be amended from time to time.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion by the board? Okay.
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Permit. My pleasure. I'd like to have a clerk call the next case.
Case number 2025-30, Paul K. Wilkinson and Elise B. Wilkinson, to Paul Muldoon, Main Street, Chatham. The owners of the property located at 18 Edgewood Road, assesses map 6, parcel E1-9 in the RH1 zoning district. The applicant seeks a special permit from 325-54 non-conforming structures and uses, and 325 Table 2, Attachment 2, Table 2, area regulation, raise and replace pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling pursuant to Howard zoning bylaws, 325-54, Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 6. The Howard Board of Health submitted comments stating that the setback to the septic must be maintained and the deck cannot cover the septic components. The Historic Commission, Highway Department, Police Department submitted comments indicating no concerns. No other comments from any other town departments or butters were received. Chairman asked that the go ahead, I'll let you do that one.
Thank you. I'd like to have the applicant representative introduce themselves.
Sure. Paul Muldoon from SV Design, representing Paul and Elise Wilkinson and their project at 18 Edgewood Road.
I'd like to point out that Mr. Wilkinson, Paul is online.
And his wife Elise is as well.
And if you want to speak at any time, just wave your hand and we'll unmute you, sir. Go ahead.
The property is located in the RH1 zoning district. As discussed, the pre-existing non-conforming lot is by way of lot size and frontage. The lot area is 10,220, where 40,000 is required. and the frontage is 84.89 feet, where 150 is required. The existing structure is non-conforming by way of side yard setback. The westerly side property is 9.7 feet to the property line, where 20 is required. The new structure is primarily going to sit on the existing footprint with some minor modifications. We will reduce the front yard setback from 31 feet to 29.4, remaining conforming. The westerly setback will be 10.3 feet, a slight upgrade from the 9.7 in the current configuration. The building height will increase from 21 feet to 27 feet 2 inches, again, remaining conforming. The existing building coverage of 15.7% will increase to 17%, and the existing site coverage of 33.1% will increase to 33.3%, remaining conforming. The idea here is that we've got an existing ranch with a subpar foundation. The existing CMU block is not in good health. We looked at alternatives to renovate the house, and by the time we got to the scope of work that we're looking to do, we're putting almost a new house on an old foundation. So the idea is to change that scope of work to build a new home in this location. There will be no new nonconformities created here with this project. We do believe that the project will not result in a substantial increase in noise, odor, fumes, traffic, and congestion, and will not be more substantially detrimental to the entire neighborhood. I'd like to answer any questions.
Timeframe?
After Labor Day, early September. And we do have the space in the front of the lot to house all of the construction activity and equipment.
You've been paying attention. I have, actually, looks like a very good plan. I think it meets the requirements of the Gale case and so forth, and it's definitely not, I don't believe, a detriment to the neighborhood. Chris?
I have no questions.
John?
Just a quick, I was a little confused on your memo. You state that the dwelling creates an intensification of the existing nonconformity, but you're getting further from the property line, so.
It's built in the side yard setback, and we just want to make sure that it was understood that it's still non-conforming, but not an increase in the
Yeah, I
non-conformity.
wouldn't call that an intensification, right? I mean,
It's
you're-
not an intensification.
It's not an intensification. And again, I want to make sure I didn't miss something.
Oh, thank you for the correction.
Well, it's an
We'll make
excellent
sure the
point.
next one is more accurate.
Yeah, you're improving it, not intensifying.
None.
I just want to make sure we didn't continue that into.
Yeah, I'm looking at the draft motion. Al, any questions? No questions. Okay. Okay, so typically we say granted is consistent with Gale and Millie case, as there will be an intensification, so there will not be an intensification of one or more existing
You're
nonconformities.
going up, right?
Correct.
Right.
So it's
That's not
intensifying that
That's
side.
not non-conforming.
No, but that side, it's the same, that side that's not conforming is going up. I thought that was an intensification. You can make
Up
it
is
longer,
better.
make it taller.
Up is better.
Well, taller is still within, it's existing,
It's not, yeah.
the height's not non-conforming.
Yeah.
So,
But if, in the bylaw, if you're increasing the height of the structure within the setback, it's considered an intensification of the nonconformity.
that's true.
Oh.
Okay. All right, so we can just leave the verbiage alone.
All right.
Okay, all right. That just saves my writing skills. Okay. Do you have a copy of the
I do.
memo from Rachel?
Thank you, Rachel.
And do you have the revised copy of 625?
I do.
Okay. All right, so, folks, just want to go over the documents. Any corrections at all?
Nope.
Recommended findings, any corrections there? And we're gonna add in, besides the violation terms and conditions variance, we'll add in the standard, will be the life of the project, the life of having the approved construction vehicles on the site, Board of Health approval, and violations. Those will be the 4 conditions. Any questions on that? Okay.
I do have a quick question. The Board of Health approval, we're keeping the existing septic?
Yeah, the Board of
We
Health,
just need a certification that the septic is in good health and good standing?
the Board of Health commented, saying that all setbacks to the septic must be maintained, and the deck cannot cover any septic components.
And we talked to the Board of Health maybe 4 weeks ago when we had a pass to go forward with the process that we did. And in fact, we slid the house up so that we maintained the 10-foot separation from the tank to the rear of the house. And the deck is something we're actively talking to them about.
Yeah, so we're just saying the fact that we're not gonna review the deck's fine with us,
Great,
as long as it's fine with the Board of Health.
understood.
So you just get, the other ones have to sign off on a permit at some point. So satisfy them, and we'll be able to, you get a path going forward.
Wonderful.
Okay. All right, so, I'm making a motion, we accept the documents, findings of facts, and conditions of approval stipulated. I have a second?
Second.
Okay, and Chris? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to have a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Okay. And I have a second? Was that Al? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, vote on closing?
Aye.
Aye.
And voting tonight's case, Al, myself, Chris, John, and Ken. I'd like to have a motion to close discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, now we'll entertain discussion, any more further discussion, all set? Okay. All right. I'd like to have the clerk make a motion.
Case number 2025-30, Paul K. Wilkinson and Elise B. Wilkinson, through Paul Muldoon, of the owners of the property located at 18 Edgewood Road, Assessors Map 6, Parcel E1-9, RH1 zoning district. The applicant has been granted a special permit from 325-54A, non-conforming structures and uses, and 325 attachment to, table 2, area regulation to raise and replace a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling pursuant to the Howard zoning bylaws, 325-54, Mass General Law 40A, Section 6. Granting is consistent with the Gale-related cases, as there will be no identification of one or more existing nonconformities and no new nonconformities, and no substantial detriment to the entire neighborhood on the pre-existing nonconforming lot, and as the proposed structure will not create any additional negative impacts with respect to traffic, noise, odor, and congestion. Any relief not expressly granted hereunder is hereby denied, and all work shall be performed in accordance with the plans submitted with this application. Said grant and approval are subject to the following conditions. During the life of the project, there will be no demolition, exterior construction, and new landscaping between June 30 and Labor Day of any year. For the life of the approved project, all construction vehicles will be parked on the applicant's property and not in any public street or road, subject to the approval of the Howard Board of Health before sign-off on the building permit. Violation of the terms and conditions of the special permit may be enforced as a violation of Howard zoning bylaws pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 7, and the Howard zoning bylaws, as these may be amended from time to time.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion by the board? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You have your permit.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Appreciate
our
your time.
Congratulations, Ms. Wilkinson. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks.
Good night now.
Thank you.
Okay, minutes,
Brian, can I ask a question before we get to the minutes, please?
of course.
And that's just, we're making these, we're putting on conditions for Board of Health and Conservation Commission. As I understand it, they can't get a building permit unless they go there. Why are we adding those conditions? If
I
they
guess
can't,
because that's how we've always done it. And other than that, I don't have an answer for you.
because I think that's
But
just.
sometimes just
additional.
remind the applicant that he's got, I've had more than one case where people didn't even realize they had to go to a board. And it was like news to them. So it's, part of it is just reminding folks that, you know, we're making this thing as, the condition is you've got to go to these apartments. Other than that, it's what I learned from Dave Ryer, and I've continued to do it.
Yeah, because I'm not so sure we can't advise them, but I think it might even be out of our scope.
I don't believe so. We can put, whether it's legal or not, we can add any condition we want on a case. It can be,
Yeah.
people can object to it and take us to court, but,
Okay, I'm just curious why we're doing it. If you can't get a building permit, it seems redundant.
it's just been standard
Seems
procedure.
redundant, as I would agree.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, I'll certainly, check with it, you know, we just cut back on our verbiage, but actually, I'm not gonna check the town attorney, I'm not gonna spend the town's money to find any answer out, but.
No.
I don't believe, that's how it's been. I will, I'll talk to Rachel, I'll talk to the town manager, see what they say, but.
I can tell you right now, these building permits aren't getting approved until all of the departments sign off.
Correct.
As part of the review process, Health Department, Conservation, they'll
Exactly.
review it and they'll put it on hold until they get what they need from the applicant.
So
I agree.
we don't have to put a condition because it's already being done.
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, all right. I have no problem with that. I think, at the beginning of the meeting, when we have, as far as the records that come in from department comments, we can certainly stress these requirements then. And then, Ken, as you suggest, we'll leave them off the conditions, just to save us time and effort. So, okay, I'm good with that. That's how we've always done it, but, you're all right, it's time for a change. But
Change is good.
Change is good. So anyways, we will be still commenting, because it's department
Oh, absolutely.
information.
Yeah, but not a
We-
condition.
Be able, to that opportunity to remind the applicant, and after that, we don't need to put it in. Unless it's
You've already
really-
listed them as a document that is part of
Yeah,
our consideration here, so.
so, good observation, Ken, I'm good with that.
Don't give
Okay.
a lot of credit.
Boy, good, little change is good for everybody. All right, minutes.
I didn't notice anything.
I didn't notice any issues,
No.
questions?
Not either.
I wasn't here, I abstained.
Same.
I see no changes.
There's only three of us, can we vote on minutes? I'm only kidding. All right, so anyways, we're, approving the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, Al, you,
Aye.
okay. All right, Al, made a motion to approve,
Aye.
Chris, second.
Yep.
And, all those in favor?
Aye, yeah.
Minutes are golden. Okay.
Two abstains.
We'll make a record of that, okay? 3-0, 2 abstains. All right. Okay, the reorganization of your chair and clerk. I'm happy to take a nomination as to continue as chair for another year.
I nominate Brian to continue for another year.
Second.
It's pretty quick. That happened the first time I became chair.
I'd make a motion, we close nominations.
Okay,
Aye.
all those in favor? of-
Aye.
Aye. So, chair, is a 5-0 vote. I'll vote for myself. And for clerk, I nominate Al to continue as clerk.
Second.
Second.
Second, okay,
I move to close nominations.
okay.
Aye.
I all agree. All those in favor of Al being the clerk another year?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Aye, aye.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Make an announcement before we adjourn?
Yes.
This will probably be my last meeting besides the 40B hearing before I go on maternity leave, so there's that. I have been training an office assistant, Lisa, I think you've seen her copied on the email, she'll be taking over.
I met her, she seemed very,
Yeah.
well, I spoke to you about it.
Yep, she's learning it quickly, so
Yeah.
she'll be doing the,
But she will not be doing everything that you're doing by any stretch of my imagination.
no, she'll just be doing the clerical board
Right.
work, for me, but, in my absence, without a building commissioner, we're not gonna be able to produce staff reports. So I think Brian is gonna be typing up the findings and,
Yeah, I'll be doing the staff reports. I'll try to get to them prior to the meetings and get that work all done,
yeah.
all right? Because I need to have it, and, go ahead.
So, yeah, so with you doing that, I don't know if you want to read all of the findings of facts and the documents at the meeting, or if you still want to do it as we're doing it now, email it to Lisa before the meeting and have Lisa send it to the applicants.
Yeah,
And then Amy Questle will be writing the decisions.
you know, what happens now is I do a draft, as far as, you know, stuff the draft motions and all that kind of good stuff, and then I send that to Rachel, and she produces a decision. I would like you to make sure I get and have your staff report format, so I can plug in. If I take one of the ones you got now,
I mean, you don't have to do the whole
I
thing
understand
that
that,
I'm
but
doing, you
I,
can just do up the conditions.
it does, I think reading your report and then going through the stuff, it helps me to focus on making sure I've got all the details regarding setbacks and so forth, and I'm sure that's true for everybody.
That's fantastic.
Absolutely,
Okay.
great
So
report.
I'm gonna try to continue to do that, and so I'll be coming in and trying to do that stuff, you know, well prior when the information comes in.
Mhm.
And, you know, probably as far as the cases we have now, coming up for July,
Are you saying that you'd type up a full staff report the way mine looks like now,
I'm gonna,
or just,
I'm not quite sure.
okay? Cause
What's-
I would suggest just for you to just do the findings and the
I-
documents, otherwise it's not a staff report, it's just a report that the chair,
Right.
the chair is.
I need to do all that.
Yeah.
But myself, where I sit there and I understand and look at the site plans, I've gotta write that stuff down anyways. And I'm trying to figure out, so if I can add it into those blocks, just so everyone's there, and I'll do my best on doing that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But,
Now, when you come back, you're gonna apply for the commissioner job?
No. I mean, hopefully that'll be filled by the time I get back.
probably not, but.
It's not a strategy.
But,
You're gonna have a town administrator.
oh, that's 9 months away. I mean, I'm throwing that number out, I mean, it's not that.
Right, yeah.
No, they do a whole interview process and it takes a long time and,
Was Megan appointed, will she be appointed as a temporary?
I don't know, I
Okay.
don't know the status of that.
John, we'll be getting an email at some point here from Amy regarding the 40B process. There are things that we can't discuss outside of a 40B meeting, but there is some things such as how to organize questions you may have regarding where we're at, and any of those questions that may need to be addressed and answered by the applicant, or come to the meeting with them answered. So you're gonna get a letter. I can't do it because I'm on the board like you are, but the planning, the building, Christine, as the town planner, she could solicit comments from you or questions from you regarding where we're at in the process, or any questions you may have, or any priorities you may have. Christine is, at some point here, is gonna begin process of asking that, so we'll be able to put everything together, prioritize things, so particularly anything, it could be a report or whatever that you may think you might need, or answers needed, so that the applicant or someone else can address it and be prepared for the July 9th meeting. okay? So that will be coming forward. So you may be sitting here like, okay, I've got a bunch of questions, I'm concerned about this, whatever it might be. Christine will be reaching out to gather information at some point, so you can start to formulate any questions you may have for anybody in the process, or documents you're looking for, or priorities you might have regarding the case, or review of any aspect of it, like the last meeting on traffic. You can feed that to Christine after she asks for it, so that we can kind of gather things, prioritize things, and
I think there might be some confusion on our end about Amy's email that she sent. It was mine and Christine's interpretation that we are not to solicit the board members for any questions, and that any questions.
I couldn't, no, I asked about for me.
No,
If I-
it's staff too.
I don't recall seeing that, but I need to get that.
We can ask a clarifying question, but from what I read from her emails, that the board should be asking any of questions that they have at the public hearing, and not
Excuse me, I gotta get the,
solicit
Okay.
questions from the board members outside of the
All right,
public.
we'll see what happens on that. I had sent an email to town attorney saying I felt that we needed to start to prioritize our efforts for July 9th, not to discuss opinions, but to gather questions or priorities that everyone felt we had to address at the July 9th meeting. It was almost like an agenda.
Will it be traffic
I
again?
was,
Yes.
yes,
That'll be the topic again.
Yeah.
right.
But they're gonna come with
Updated info.
updates, yeah,
Right.
like, these are our suggestions. Things like, what are you gonna do with the Queen Anne, 124 intersection?
I wouldn't, you can't get into anything right now like that, believe it or not, but if any questions you might have, I asked the town attorney, can I have to gather them together so we can prioritize them and get it to the applicant, so we come in and just make this meeting as efficient as possible,
Right.
all right? And I was told I can't do that. So the question is, Christine thought that she might be able to do it, so, but we'll gather some light on that. Personally, I think it's not an effective way of handling things for the board members to go in and not go to a meeting and ask questions which could have been answered prior to they could have prepared for it, that now we'll ask them, and they won't be ready to answer it, and that gets delayed any further. I don't find that productive. But those aren't our rules.
Can our consultant shed any light on that, and what the rules should be?
Well, I asked the town attorney, so, I mean, we're trying to get that clarified. That's the attorney. Regardless of what the consultant says, if the town attorney says this is what you can or can't do, that's what I feel we're obliged to follow. That's the law. I mean, and the consultant might not have the right interpretation. But the consultant can certainly advise you made a good point. Can the consultant advise the attorney that this is okay in a 40B hearing?
Or here's what happens in 40Bs, and I'm sure that the
But this
consultant's done a
isn't,
lot
this isn't
more.
our town attorney's first 40B. She's
It
done.
is or it's not?
It's not. She's done dozens of them. So this is,
Oh.
so this isn't her first rodeo.
Good to know,
She's very experienced on this.
good to know.
All right, it is 9:41. I'm certainly ready to close the meeting. So I have
Second.
a motion, okay? 9:41. Okay, I made the motion,
I second it.
and Chris seconded, and folks,
all in favor?
Aye.
we are out of here.